lists under control. David Cameron said the funds would be targeted at areas under most pressure, but doctors said the government was guilty of papering over the cracks. Businesses in Dunstable say the 11-week roadworks on Pointers Road are impacting on trade. Diversions have been in place since work began on July the 8th. Viv Innes says customer numbers are right down at her hair salon.
We're probably about 40% down. We feel that we've lost customers because they can't be bothered to be in the traffic queues. With probably the prospect of them not actually coming back.
And today marks the 50th anniversary of the Great Train Robbery in Buckinghamshire. The robbers got away with over £2.5 million in cash, the equivalent of over £40 million today. After robbing the train, the gang of 15 fled to a farmhouse in Brill on the Buckinghamshire-Oxfordshire border. Retired policeman John Woolley was the first on the scene after the gang had fled.
It wasn't the corn sack, the potato sack that I perhaps half expected it might be, but it was in fact a canvas mail bag. And as the top flopped open, I could see parcel wrappers, banknote wrappers, consignment notes, all bearing the names of the famous high street banks. That was when it finally hit home.
More on this coming up next with Iain Lee. In sport, cricketers from England and Australia have dismissed media reports that some players have been using special silicone tape on bats to prevent the detection of edges by the hotspot technology. Kevin Peterson says the suggestions are infuriating lies, while Australian batsman Steve Smith says none of the tourists have been using the tape. The weather, dry and fine with a top temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, that's 75 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Is everything okay?
Everything's fine.
It sounded like you broke the news and not in the good way.
I did break it a little bit, but I don't think anyone noticed.
OK, use a bit of sticky tape and some spit and hopefully 6:30, you think it will be all right?
Fingers crossed.
Nice one. Yo, 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 Bum Rush the show. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's Thursday, and today we're off on a work trip to go and see the Alan Partridge film. I understand the irony of that, you don't have to spell it out. I know what we are, I know who I am, and I know where we're going. Can you answer that? Lots coming up on the show today, including... why are we so fascinated with the Great Train Robbery? Well, it's 50 years since the robbery took place. It took place in Buckinghamshire. But are we glorifying a crime and turning criminals into heroes? I don't get the fascination with it. Do you? Can you explain it to me? Plus, it's 2 years since riots swept through cities across England. At the time, the government said tough sentences would show there were consequences to disorder. Well, but we'll be looking at the case of one Luton man who was sentenced to 18 years in prison for his part. And do roadworks drive you mad? We speak to one Bedfordshire lady who wants compensation because her road will be closed for over 2.5 months while it gets resurfaced. Is she just being a little bit greedy? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or give me a phone call. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hey guys, happy Great Train Robbery Day. What are you doing to celebrate the fact that a man was murdered and a train was robbed? Well, it is the 50th anniversary of the Great Train Robbery, where a 15-strong gang of robbers led by Bruce Reynolds attacked the Royal Mail train heading between Glasgow and London at a railway bridge in Ledburn in Buckinghamshire. The gang, which included Gordon Goody, Buster Edwards and Ronnie Biggs, used careful planning based on inside information from a person known only as the Ulsterman. And the robbers got away with over £2.6 million, the equivalent of £46 million today. The bulk of the stolen money was never recovered. Well, our reporter Justin Dealey has been to Brill in Buckinghamshire. This is where the robbers used Leatherslade Farm as their hideout. Morning, Justin.
Hello, Ian.
Have you spoken to anyone who lived in the village in 1963 where the hideout was?
Yes, absolutely. The robbers itself used Leatherslade Farm. That was 28 miles from where the robbery took place in Ledburn. And I went to Brill yesterday. It's a tiny village. village. It's quite literally in the middle of nowhere. It's about 20 minutes away from Aylesbury. I found a few people who lived there back in 1963 when the village erupted into chaos, and here's a few people with their memories.
Oh, my giddy aunt, where do I start? First of all, I knew there was something going on because there was commotion in the village, and it's usually a quiet place. And then I got a rumour of what it was. And my son was a baby then. So what I did, being nosy like, I put him in the pram and pushed him round the street to see what was going on. And it was all the helicopters and all the press outside the pub, the Sun Hotel it was then. And I don't know where the people came from. They were like flies, and I was bemused, but very, very curious.
And in a bizarre twist of fate here, and this is an incredible story, your son is an actor, and he's been signed up to play a role in a story about the Great Train Robbery. Can you tell us more about that?
I don't know what channel it's on, but it's going to come on television.
And who's he playing, do you know?
He played the guy that should have set fire to Leatherslade. That's how the police caught him, because... He did a runner, didn't he?
Madam, you remember the police being in the village here back in August 63, but you actually went to Leatherslade Farm where the robbers were hiding out, of course, after they'd left. Can you tell us how that came about and how much you even paid to go and have a look?
Well, we just heard that the police had gone and everything had gone. My friend and I think we paid 25 pence now. We just went down and had a look, and it was just an empty cottage. No money, couldn't find anything.
So no money there. I mean, how big was the cottage? Because it's no longer there, of course. It's been knocked down where they were hiding out.
I think we only went in a couple of bottom rooms. I suppose it's just two up, two down, like.
So 25p, was it a waste of money?
No, I don't think so. I'm talking to you now about it, aren't I?
That's very, very true.
You see, look at that. History pays off. 50 years later, that young lady got a chance to speak to Justin Dealey.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's happened to the farmhouse in Brill that the robbers used? Is it still there?
No, it's not there, but the farm's still there, but the building they use, that's been knocked down. Now, the owners, Iain, they won't talk to us this morning, but I did talk to John Mole. He lives in Brill. His cousins, they own Leatherslade Farm, and he confirms that building is no longer there.
That's right. It hasn't been there for at least 10 years. I think that's when it was taken down, yes.
And did they knock it down because so many people were still turning up to look at that building?
I think so, yes. A lot of people, they've come round to look at Leatherslade Farm because it's the history. Anybody reading up about the train robbers will see Leatherslade Farm. It's on the boundary of Brill and Oakley, and they're just coming. Oh, let's have a little look. Yeah.
I can understand why your cousin won't talk to us, because they must get frustrated, because we're talking about the 50th anniversary. But every single year there must be people from right the way across the world that still come here to have a nose just to see, is that where the robbers were?
That's exactly right. That they do come from all over the world. And it makes the news everywhere. People still remember the Great Train Robbery. They still associate Leatherslade Farm. That is the place where they hid out. The farm itself was sold about 3 or 4 times within the first 2 years after the robbery. Every one of the people who bought it dug up the garden looking for something.
I don't get it.
Why don't you get it?
I don't get it. I don't get the fascination with the great, amazing train robbery.
I think if you were there back in 1963, if you were alive in 63, everyone has got an interest. Just to give you an example of this, I went to Brill. I've never been there before, this tiny little village where it all happened back in 63. Now, when I said I was going there, my dad said to me, "Can I come with you?" Because he remembers when it happened. He was abroad, he was on a trip with the Scouts, and he saw this news flash on TV, and I think everyone at the time who knew about this, and let's face it, everyone did, it was just how big this was, how much money at that time they managed to get. £2.6 million, equivalent to £46 million today. It was the sheer size of this heist, and I think at the time as well, it took everybody by surprise. That's why there is still this fascination 50 years on.
Could you do me a favour, Justin? Could you go and see if other people get it?
I think they will.
Would you mind asking them? Because I don't quite. I mean, I met Bruce Reynolds. I had a very interesting evening with Bruce Reynolds once. Steady.
Yep.
No, steady. I told you that in confidence.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
But I don't get. And there was a certain excitement that I was in the same room, with a great train robber. But that was I don't get it.
Okay.
Go and see what other people think.
What I did this morning, I was certainly going to ask people what you've heard there again from John Mull, that his cousin owns Leatherslade Farm. Still to this day, 50 years on, people from right the way across the world, they go there just to see where the great train robbers were, where that hideout was. There is still that fascination to millions of people right the way across the world.
Thank you very much, Justin. Do you get it? Do you get the fascination with the great train robbery? Do you find it very exciting? Do you think those people are kind of... I guess they were sort of seen as modern-day Robin Hoods, weren't they? 08459 455 555.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me, I recognize my face. Say you don't care who goes to that kind of place. Knee deep in the hoopla, sinking in your fight. Too many runaways, eating up the night. Marconi plays the mama. Listen to the radio, don't you remember? We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Someone always playing corporation games. Who cares? They're always changing corporation names. We just want to dance here. Someone stole the stage. They call us irresponsible. Write us off the page. Marconi plays the mama. Listen to the radio, don't you remember? We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. We built this city. We built this city on rock
BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555. Do you get, in inverted commas, the great train robbery? I don't. Lots of people here very excited. I was being scoffed at for not getting it. I just don't. 08459 455 555. 6:16. Let's get the travel news now. Here's James Worley.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Ian. Well, the motorways aren't bad at all. As I check the cameras, the M1 moving nicely northbound up to Northamptonshire. London bound seems fine on camera and no problems through the roadworks at the moment on the M25 between 23 South Mims and 25 Enfield. If you're heading onto the trains, generally a good service. We understand there are severe delays on the northbound Northern Line in London heading up to East Finchley. Southbound, though, appears to be running well currently. I'm James Worley, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Go up to 6:17. It's Thursday the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riots are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long sentence. A man from Boreham Wood has pleaded guilty to actual bodily harm and making threats to kill. In sport, Watford, Milton Keynes Dons and Stevenage will be in this lunchtime's Capital One Cup second round draw after wins on Tuesday night. Coming up, 2 years since the riots. We'll hear about one man who is being sentenced to 18 years in prison. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio. If you've got a problem with a company, a council or an organisation, there's one man you should come and speak to.
You've got a problem with a mattress, I gather. Tell me all about it without naming any company name.
Jonathan Vernon Smith.
Well, every time she tried to book, the trip was cancelled because of adverse weather.
The JVS show fights for your rights and tackles your consumer problems.
Just send the receipt off and you'll get the cheque in the post.
If you need our help,
I went to speak to the man that runs this golf club.
Email jvsshow@bbc.co.uk.
I'm just very pleased that you've got the money.
And we could do the same for you.
Thanks ever so much, Jonathan.
The JVS Show on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water and I think of all the things what you're doing, and in my head I paint a picture. 'Cause since I come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. I want to come on over and stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Did you have to go to jail? But your house on a up for sale. Did you get a good lawyer? Hope you didn't catch a 10. Hope you found the right man who'll fix it for you. Are you shopping anywhere? Change the color of your hair. Are you busy? And did you have to pay that fine? You was dodging all the time. Are you used to busy? Since I come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the border and I think about all the things what you do. And in my head I paint a picture.
BBC Three Counties Radio. We're having an argument, like a proper sweary argument, being paid for by your licence fee, I should add, about the colour of my shirt. It's so obviously brown. Everybody here is saying it's green. Lorna Hankin is temporary...
It's not green or brown.
What?
It's I don't know what colour that is.
It is. I tell you why it's confusing you. A, because you're all idiots. B,
because it is corduroy. So the
It's confusing you.
Sorry?
I'll tell you why it's confusing
Yes.
you. A, because it's green.
Yeah.
And B, because it's not brown.
Right, OK.
It's not.
Richard, we'll be with you in a second. I know we had to talk about something very important. We'll come to that in a second. But it is corduroy, and that is making your eyes kind of strobe a little bit and not see that it's brown. I mean, camouflage. It is brown.
From here...
08459 455 555 is the phone number. We'll put a picture up on Facebook. You can join in the exciting debate. Now, on to slightly more serious things. It's 2 years since riots swept across cities across England. At the time, the government said tough sentences would show there were consequences to disorder. Well, Wayne Collins, 25, a barber from Luton, is now serving an 18-year sentence for his part in the Birmingham disorders. He was imprisoned under the controversial law of joint enterprise. His family and lawyers were shocked by the 18-year conviction and are now appealing against the length of his sentence in the High Court. Our reporter Richard Williams has been looking into this case. Now, Richard, obviously lots of people will remember the riots. We had incidents here in the three counties. But for those who don't know Wayne Colin Taylor's story, just give us a little background on that.
Yeah, well, Wayne Collins Taylor lived in Luton, and on the night of the 7th of August 2011, he travelled Birmingham to meet a friend that he'd met on holiday in Iain. Now, the incidents relating to Wayne Collins' case are eventually on the 9th of August when he was actually outside the Barton Arms pub. Now, at that time, it was around midnight, there was a group of around 26 men. Now, these men were in a building outside the Barton Arms, and they actually attacked the pub where they smashed it up. They were ransacking the premises, and petrol bombs were actually thrown inside the building to start a fire. Now, at the time in the building, there was actually 4 people upstairs who were actually getting ready to bed. Now, it's said in the prosecution at the time that the fire was actually started at the pub to actually lure police to the scene. Now, shortly after that, the group of 26 men met up with other men, so then there was around 40 men at that time. Now, after the police turned up at the scene, a number of shots were fired at police officers, and the forensics evidence at the time shows that there was at least 4 guns used out. They found that out from recovering casings from the scene at the time. There was a police helicopter over the scene at the time as well, and that was actually shot at.
OK, so a very nasty incident. What part did Wayne Collins play?
Well, Ian, what we do know is, and what isn't beyond question, is Wayne Collins was actually outside the Barton Arms, and that is, the prosecution agrees with that, and the defence actually accepts that as well. He was there with a friend outside the pub. Now, you have to imagine this incident happened very, very quickly. It was over in a matter of about 6 minutes. And at that time, between the shooting and the crowd running away, Wayne was actually in that crowd and started running. Now, what the prosecution said is his association with 2 of the defendants who were actually part of that group, one of them actually went on to be convicted of one of the shootings. Wayne's association with them was enough to get him convicted and sentenced to 18 years. What the prosecution says, well, because they'd actually tracked the phone records of Wayne Collins, they said that he had met them people earlier in the day, and by the fact he'd had a conversation with them on the phone, they inferred that he knew that that person would have had a gun and he planned to use it.
Wayne was sentenced to 18 years, a long time. Why was it so severe?
Well, Wayne Collins Taylor, he was sentenced actually on 3 counts. He got 18 years for possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. He got 6 years for the rioting, and he got 6 years for the arson offence. The 6 years for the arson offence was because of the severity, because there was 4 people upstairs at the time. Now, what surprised many people about this case is, including his family and the solicitors and a number of people in terms of the local MP, Kelvin Hopkins as well, is the length of the sentence, because Wayne was convicted under this controversial law of joint enterprise. And what you have to remember is, although he got convicted of possession of a firearm, what's clear is he never actually held the firearm, he never actually fired it, he also never threw anything into the pub, he was never active in any of the events outside the arms. And actually, the judge in his summing up actually made reference directly to this. What the judge actually said was, although you played no active role in the events at the Barton Arms that evening, your presence there as part of the group encouraged others.
What effect has this had on him and his family?
Well, I first met Wayne's aunt back in May in Luton, and she was in the town centre canvassing for a petition, as she does on many occasions, trying to get signatures to raise the plight of Wayne's case. And what she said to me was that the 2 years on prison, that he's had in prison, has had a severe effect on him.
his whole character's changed, his perception of the UK justice system's changed, his understanding of what freedom is all about, and how just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and also just meeting the wrong person at the wrong time, could have such an impact on one's life.
I've not heard of this law of joint enterprise before. What is that?
Yes, it's quite a controversial law, and it's been around for about 300 years. It actually dates back to when people used to do duelling, and what was happening if someone lost a duel, they would allow then to be actually other people who were part of the group, the doctors, the people behind it, they would actually be also prosecuted as well. Now, there's also a very famous case in 1952, which a lot of people know about Derek Bentley. This was a case where a man was with a 16-year-old juvenile, and he said to the juvenile who was holding a shotgun, let him have it, to a police officer. That 16-year-old fired the gun at the police officer, and eventually the gentleman, Derek Bentley, he actually went to the gallows for that. He said let him have it. The prosecution said they meant to shoot him. He actually says he meant let him have it in terms of the gun. So this law has been a law which has attracted a lot of controversy. Really, the test of joint enterprise is it joins down to foresight. If someone is in a group, do they have knowledge, the people in the group, about what they're going to do? So if they go on and commit a serious crime, did they know that that person was going to do it? If the prosecution can prove they did, then they can be convicted under the law of joint enterprise.
What are his family doing? I'd imagine they're busy trying to get some change done.
Well, yes, since Wayne Collins-Taylor has been convicted, his family have campaigned to get his case looked at, and a petition of nearly 10,000 signatures has been gathered. And Debbie Taylor, his aunt, told me why it's important to keep raising awareness of his nephew's case.
Because every weekend they're out gaining more signatures and just really keeping people informed and kind of raising awareness of that this could happen to anybody at any time. If you're put into a situation like this, and what would you do? So raising that awareness and gaining support locally from the communities in Luton, Dunstable and surrounding areas has been fantastic.
That was Wayne's aunt talking there. And also recently, local MP Kelvin Hopkins has backed the campaign. He's written to the Justice Secretary and will raise the case in the Commons soon.
Fascinating stuff. Richard Williams, thank you very much indeed. Well, later on in the programme, we'll be speaking to Dr Andrew Green, an expert in the law of joint enterprise. And after 8 o'clock, we'll hear from the lawyer representing Wayne Collins-Taylor in the Court of Appeal. 08459 455 555 6:29 on BBC Three Counties Radio. Let's get the latest travel, shall we?
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Moving quite well. No delays that I can see on the M25 as yet. The M1 and the M40 are running well as well. Roadworks not causing any hold-ups, but don't forget that through Ivor Heath, the A412, this is Church Road, is closed off between Thornbridge Road and Slough Road at the 5 Points roundabout. It will be until the end of the month, with a diversion via Bangers Road North and the A4007 Slough Road.
Bangers Road.
Bangers Road, I know.
Bangers.
And
I'm
Mac.
so sorry.
It's all right, it's all right. And the A40 in Stokenchurch, temporary lights up on the Wickham Road for roadworks for another couple of days. As for the trains, no late runners that I can see, but if you're heading for London, the Northern Line tube running with severe delays. It's mainly on the northbound side up toward Golders Green and East Finchley because of a signal failure much further down the line at Morden earlier this morning. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
And again, once again, apologies for bangers.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. With the 6:30 headlines, I'm Catherine Boyle. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riots are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long sentence. A man from Boreham Wood has pleaded guilty to actual bodily harm and making threats to kill. And today marks the 50th anniversary of the great train robbery which happened at Ledburn near Mentmore in Buckinghamshire.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Watford, Milton Keynes Dons and Stevenage will be in this lunchtime's Capital One Cup second round draw after wins on Tuesday night. Premier League clubs not involved in European competition enter the League Cup draw today. Watford manager Gianfranco Zola says it's a competition his squad should focus on.
They need to take this game seriously because these games will give them the opportunity to play and to show themselves in the future, so during the season. So it's important.
The English and Welsh Cricket Board have asked Australian broadcaster Channel 9 for an apology after they accused batsmen of using silicone tape to try to trick the decision review system during the Ashes. Batsman Kevin Peterson yesterday called the suggestions hurtful lies. Meanwhile, there was an extraordinary T20 quarter-final last night as holders Hampshire beat Lancashire by 1 run to reach finals day. Michael Carberry scored a century as Hampshire posted 202 for 3. Lancashire then needed 4 off the final ball but could only manage 2 as they fell just short on 201 for 4. After winning Wimbledon last month, Andy Murray made a successful return to competitive tennis with a straight-sets victory at the Montreal Masters. He beat Marcel Grenoller at 6-4, 7-6 and admitted to a few nerves before the match.
I was pretty nervous before the match, which was a good sign. I was happy that I was nervous because, a little bit after the US Open last year, I kind of felt almost no pressure in a way, and it wasn't that easy. I wasn't used to going into matches like that, so it was nice to have the nerves there, but it was tricky. It was so windy today, very tough conditions, and all the players have been struggling a bit, so I was just happy to get through it.
And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 7 o'clock.
What colour is my shirt?
I didn't notice what colour it was.
Sorry?
I don't know. I was so entranced by your face. No, that's not the right thing to say, is it?
Right, I'm going to play a song. I'm going to come up.
All right.
I want you to look at my shirt and really study it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. BBC Three Counties Radio. If you go to facebook.com/BBC3CR, you can see my brown shirt. It's been confirmed by everybody upstairs in the office. It's brown. You can also tell me, do you get the great train robbery? We're celebrating. We're talking about it because it's 50 years to the day. And I don't get it. I don't get what the fascination is with it. A man was murdered, you know. Are they seen as working-class heroes, Robin Hoods? 08459 455 555. Now, speaking of trains, but not robberies, if you get a train from the Three Counties into London, you might be interested to know that this month a number of peak time trains will be operating with fewer carriages. It's so 61 new train drivers can be trained, but will this mean commuters will face cramped conditions in the meantime? Or we can speak to London Midlands Head of Communications, Francis Thomas. Morning, Francis. How many trains are we talking about here?
Well, we've tried to make sure that it's no more than 2 trains in the peak in each direction, so from the Three Counties area into London or vice versa. As you said, we're at record numbers in terms of recruiting drivers. Our business is growing. We know we need more drivers. Our passengers need more drivers to make the service more reliable. The only way you can do that, the drivers need to learn about the trains they're going to be responsible for so they can give a good service to our customers. So we've chosen the quietest time of the year to take some carriages off, just a few trains, so that we can do that most important.
How much shorter will these trains be?
As soon as possible.
How much shorter will these trains be?
Well, the routes we're talking about typically have about 5 trains an hour to and from the capital. They have normal formations of 12 or 8 carriages, and we're taking 4 carriages off those trains.
Oh, so in some cases you're halving the length of the train. That seems pretty excessive. I know you say it's a quieter time, but it's still peak time. They're still pretty cramped as they are.
And nobody likes to inconvenience our customers. That's why.
So why are you doing it at peak time?
Of the year. The alternative, Ian, would be to look at other routes where you only have 4 carriage trains, and then you'd be taking off a whole service.
But why are you doing them?
That's not an option.
Why are you doing them at peak time?
Because those trains run right through the day, of course. You know, you don't. Once you start the service first thing in the morning, and colleagues have been up all night preparing those trains to get people on their journeys this morning. Once they start, you can't just take a train out of service halfway through the day.
Well, there's 2 obvious things that could be done to make things a little bit easier for commuters who suffer enough as it is. You could not do that at peak time and spread the bringing the new drivers in. Bringing in 61 drivers all in one go seems a little bit silly, doesn't it?
Well, unfortunately, we lost an awful lot of drivers about 9 months ago, and it takes a year to train drivers. So we had to make the conscious decision around about December of last year to do a big recruitment drive for a variety of
spread it out though. Doing 61 drivers all in one go seems a little bit silly, doesn't it? If it's going to inconvenience passengers who are already having a bit of a rotten time.
I see your point. We're not training all 61 drivers this month. But because we've got so many more drivers to train than usual, it does mean that we are taking the step this month, and we've had to plan it and think about what's the quietest time, because this is a huge peak in recruitment that we're going through. It's an unusual step for the unusual situation that we're in of having to recruit so many drivers in a single year.
Are you going to apologise to passengers?
Well, we did say in the statement that we issued yesterday that we regret having to do this.
Well, are you going to say sorry to passengers?
Our passengers do. That they are very tolerant with us when we have services.
Are you going to say sorry to passengers?
We've had a lot of that in the last few weeks with things like cows on the line. So our passengers are very good with us.
Are you going to say sorry to passengers?
If I haven't made that clear, I'll repeat it again. We said yesterday we regret it. We are sorry.
No,
that we have to do it.
That's it. You said you regret it, but are you going to say sorry to passengers for the inconvenience?
Sorry, and I did just say that. I said.
No, you said you regret it.
And then I said, and I'll repeat it again. We are sorry to our passengers.
There we go.
But when we cause inconvenience, it was part of the same sentence, but perhaps you didn't hear me.
You didn't say sorry the first time, Francis. You said you regretted it, which is a completely different thing. And I'm assuming that passengers will be getting some form of compensation, will they?
Well, obviously, when you travel on a commuter route, standing is part of the experience from time to time.
Well, it shouldn't be, should it?
Well, I don't know of any commuter route that I've come across anywhere in the world where it isn't part of that.
But if standing is part of the ride already, you're going to make it considerably worse by removing half of the carriages on a train. So you would like to think that the passengers who pay your wages, who are being inconvenienced, will receive some form of compensation for having a journey where they already have to stand, made even worse.
What we'll do is we'll monitor those trains this month. If we find that it's becoming worse than people would perhaps normally experience, if it's not the normal experience that people would have travelling on those routes, then we'll keep that under review. But there's no plans to
offer any compensation to the passengers who'll be suffering even more. Francis Thomas, London Midlands Head of Communications, thank you very much. Well, listening to that is Rob Middleton, who regularly commutes into London. Rob, you heard what Francis had to say. What's your reaction?
Oh, it's a lot of rubbish, isn't it? I think you put it just right. I think it's just another hardship in a long list of hardships for the hard-pressed commuter. I think if they've decided to make this ill-judged move, then they need to compensate us. You know, if we're going to be even less likely to be able to get a seat on the train, then I think we need to give us some free travel. That was something which they did at the end of the last year when they had really poor service. They gave us 5 free days of service to compensate us for the inconvenience. I think this is something that they can do now.
Well, Rob, you've heard from the Head of Communications that standing is part of a journey anyway. I don't think it necessarily should be, but it is anyway. And they will review whether compensation is required.
Oh, well, that's just a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? There's nothing's going to happen there. They'll just hopefully kick it into the long grass, and it's just going to be just another hardship that we'll have to put up with. I think if they're going to inconvenience us and they're going to say that we're going to be crammed onto the trains more like a sardine than we usually are, then they need to offer us some financial compensation.
It's not a train route I use particularly often. What's it like normally, Rob?
No, it's awful. It's awful on peak trains. It's awful on the off-peak trains. You know, you try to dodge the number of passengers, but it's impossible. You get halfway through the journey and there's people crammed on, and you just think about how much it costs now to travel. My girlfriend, she commutes down as well. She's got a season ticket. She's a captive audience, and she pays over £5,000 a year now. And all she wants is to get a seat and to have a timely service. And this is going to make it even worse for her.
It will be worth it in the long run, though, won't it? 61 new drivers coming in.
Well, that's fine, but I think there must be a better way to do it. And I just think I don't understand why they have to do it on peak trains. I think, these train operating companies, they're making enough money, they're making enough profits, they've got a captive audience, so surely they'll be able to get their heads together, get some of these highly paid executives to work out a better way of doing it, other than saying to commuters who are paying vast amounts of money each and every year to them, oh, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to stand, you're going to have someone else's armpit in your face. I think we're just fed up of it.
I should flag up, Rob, in the sense of fairness, that you are a Labour councillor. Have you got an agenda with the train company here?
Well, we have an agenda that Wolverton, the area which I represent, has a train station, and my mailbag is filled full of complaints each and every month from commuters who just want an improved service. And the problem is that I think London Midland just take for granted the commuters, because they know that they've got a monopoly on that route. And if they're going to make it worse for the commuters, then they need to pay us some compensation. That's something which happened towards the end of last year. They gave us 5 free days travel, and I think there's something they should do now. And I know that's something that's going to be filling my mailbag in months to come from hard-pressed commuters in Wolverton.
We just heard from Francis Thomas, London Midlands Head of Communications. Were you satisfied with the apology he gave to his passengers?
You had to tease that one out of him, didn't he? I think that's the problem with these high-paid executives. They're quite happy to sit in the boardroom and make this decision, which is going to make it even harder for commuters to get to work on a daily basis. But when it comes to apologising, they're pretty reluctant, aren't they? And I'm happy you went and pushed him on that one, because at least now I can tell the people who were going to write to me and complain that he did apologise after the 5th attempt, I think it was, Ian.
Rob, thank you very much. We'll end it there. Rob Middleton, who regularly commutes into London. If this route affects you, what do you think? Good news, bad news? 08459 455 555. BBC Three Counties Radio. It's 6:46. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 anti-clockwise is currently blocked. Stationary traffic because of a vehicle fire between junction 25 at Enfield and 24 at Potters Bar. Traffic is being held right now, and obviously queues are building. The A1 into London looking slow southbound through Boreham Wood from Stirling Corner to Apex Corner. Works in Great Missenden, Martins End Lane, the A4128. There are temporary traffic lights for electricity work between the High Street and Upper Hollis. And if you're driving into Bedford, Goldington Road, the A4280, temporary traffic lights up round Brookfield Road through the rest of today for roadworks there. They should be finished and moved out of the way by tomorrow. Trains and tubes running pretty well. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 6:47. It is Thursday, the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riots are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long sentence. 50 years after the great train robbery at Lebanon near Mentmore, the Buckinghamshire constabulary officers involved have received special commendations. In sport, Watford, Milton Keynes, Dons and Stevenage will be in this lunchtime's Capital One Cup second round draw after wins on Tuesday night. Coming up, man, have you seen the roadworks in Pointers Road in Dunstable? It's mayhem over there. It's literal insanity. We'll be talking about that after the weather with Elizabeth Rizzini.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, good morning. Nice shirt today, and I've seen the photo.
It's brown, isn't it?
No, I think it's khaki.
Well, hang
Don't
on.
say that to an Italian because it's a bit of a rude word.
What does khaki mean to an
Well,
Italian?
You can look it up.
Is it really rude?
No, it's not really rude.
Oh, okay. but you're wrong. It's brown. Let's see if you can get the weather right, shall we?
Aye, thank you. All right, well, it's a cool, chilly-ish start to the day, actually. We've seen temperatures drop to single figures overnight away from the major towns. So we've got sort of 7 degrees, actually, at the moment, just outside Milton Keynes. Those temperatures are going to rise nicely in the sunshine. Lots of that through this morning. Into this afternoon, though, we're going to see more cloud bubble up here and there. And we could see some of that cloud just produce the odd light shower or two. But look, most places are going to stay dry. It will be another fairly pleasant day with temperatures up to 22 or 23 degrees Celsius quite widely across the three counties. Find a sunny spot, nice and pleasant with just light winds. Overnight tonight, dry for the first half of the night. We will see some outbreaks of rain head towards us by the time we get to dawn tomorrow. A milder night, temperatures dropping to 14 or 15 degrees Celsius. You will want to watch out for a few showers around tomorrow morning. We should see some sunny spells into the afternoon, turning a bit breezier as we head towards the weekend. Saturday, dry and fine. Sunday, some rain on the way, albeit quite light. That's the forecast.
Thank you very much. It's brown.
Roberto Perrone, debating the local issues.
Bill Rowe is a guardian angel. He needs volunteers for his Luton chapter.
This is not being a policeman. You can't do a policeman's job. It is giving safe passage to more vulnerable people.
Roberto Perrone.
A red kite has been rescued from a tree in Hertfordshire. There was a lost parrot in the three counties, and I was ready to mobilise our best people. Forget snakes on a plane. This is snakes in Hertfordshire. Potentially 27 of them.
Roberto Perrone.
And I love the animal stories. I do the animal stories.
Weekdays from 3 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
If I lived with Joni Mitchell in the mid to late 60s, smoked a load of pot and had a cat, I'd write a song like this.
I'll light the fire. You place the flowers in the vase that you bought today. Staring at the fire for hours and hours while I listen to you play your love songs all night long. For me, only for me. Come to me now. Rest your head for just 5 used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you. And now, la 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 Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you. And now I'll light the fire while you place the flowers in the vase that you bought today.
Local businesses say roadworks in Dunstable have badly affected their business. The Pointers Road repairs have closed the whole road for over 2.5 months, meaning businesses and houses can't be accessed at all easily. Well, our reporter, Sophie Solaria, went to meet site manager Ben Gadsby, who showed her the project 1 month on.
So we're on Pointers Road now, Ben.
Yeah.
The work seems to be getting done. There's a lot of disruption in terms of the road being dug up.
Yep.
What stage is this?
This is the most critical phase of the works, where we do the deep in situ recycling. The phase we're looking at the moment is the planing. So we're planing the existing surface course or bituminous layers to get down to the subgrade layer.
How did it get this bad, this road? Why does it need such extensive work on it?
Pointers Road's been through some cyclic maintenance for the last sort of 10 years, with the most recent being 6 years ago. Due to damaged subgrade layers, it's now necessary to reconstruct the road entirely.
But in essence, was it left to get pretty bad and that's why so much work had to be done?
The idea is that we waited for the scheme to get into a state where we could do it all in one go. So the scheme that we're building now shouldn't require maintenance for the next 20 years.
Why did it get to this level that we had to do 11 weeks' work and not just maybe a week's work if it had been maintained throughout the years?
At some point this road would always have had to have this level of maintenance. So there's only so many times you can patch something up before eventually you have to repair it.
I've just come into the Pointers Arms to meet some of the lovely staff here. Suzanne, your drinking establishment is on Pointers Road.
Yes, it is.
And you're directly opposite the roadworks, and actually one of your accesses has been blocked off. How has it affected business?
It's been difficult getting taxis up to pick customers up. That's been a setback. But I think the good weather has meant that people don't mind walking over. If it was raining, I think it would have been a totally different scenario.
Now imagine if tomorrow it starts raining. For the next 7 weeks it rains. What do you think will happen?
I think that will severely affect us because people won't want to walk over. They'll want to drive over. And that means that getting up and down the road, they're not going to want to do it. They're not going to want the wear and tear to their car because of the roadworks.
Does that worry you?
Yes.
I've just come into Margaret Inn's hairdressers, hair and beauty boutique on Pointers Road.
I co-own the shop with my daughter Lauren, and yes, as you can see, we're quite empty.
Quite empty? There's not a single person in your shop? There's a lot of empty chairs?
Yeah, we have been quite badly affected. I'd say we're probably about 40% down. Obviously, we've got no footfall customers, and obviously we do get quite a lot of people stop, pick up price lists. We feel that we've lost customers because they can't be bothered to be in the traffic queues, with probably the prospect of them not actually coming back.
Well, Central Beds couldn't put anyone up to speak to us this morning, but they've told us this.
Whilst everyone appreciates the work needs to be done, we're acutely aware... I'm not reading all of it. It's way too long. I'll read bits of it. It's too long. If you can't be bothered... Listen, if you can't be bothered to come on, don't send me a ridiculously long statement, because I'm going to pick and choose the bits I read from it, all right? Central Beds Council, who couldn't be bothered to give us anybody to speak to this morning, said, whilst everyone appreciates the work needs to be done, we're acutely aware of the disruption. We took care to schedule the majority of works for the summer holiday period when the roads are quieter, and we've completed the improvements to Boscombe Road ahead of this to try and keep traffic flowing more smoothly. Meanwhile, with regards to the tax rebate, Luton Borough Council have told us the diversions are in place. Send someone on the phone to talk so we can talk to you about it. The diversions are in place to help reduce the impact of the work being carried out. There is likely to be extra traffic on nearby roads. There are no plans toward compensation. Right, there we go. Well, it's not just businesses who've been affected by the work. The traffic has had a knock-on effect for people on Lewis Road in Luton, which has consequently been used as a through road. We'll hear from them a little bit later on. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give me a call. We're talking about the Great Train Robbery today. 50 years to the day since it happened. I don't get the fascination with the Great Train Robbery. Some members of my team do. Some of the less informed members of my team do. People like that grease monkey Justin Dealey, Kelly Baird, even Richard Williams, who's a very sensible reporter. I was very surprised. He's excited by the thought of the Great Train Robbery. I don't get it. Am I missing something here? Am I missing something? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. I don't get the fascination with the Great Train Robbery. What's so exciting about it? What? Why? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call on that. You can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. You could send me a cheeky text as well, not too cheeky. Oh, 81333. Start your text to 3CR. And if you also want to take part in the Great Shirt Robbery, then you can also go to Facebook. It's a brown shirt. It's so obviously a brown shirt. There's nothing green about it in the slightest.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 anti-clockwise is blocked. Stationary traffic following a lorry fire between Enfield at Junction 25 and Potters Bar at Junction 24. All the traffic being held while the fire brigade attend to a petrol tanker which is on fire. This means that the anti-clockwise entry slip is closed at Junction 25 from the A10, and clockwise past the scene from Potters Bar to Enfield is looking very slow as well. If you're heading into London, the A1 looking busy in Ballroom Wood from Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner. Roadworks in Eaton Bray, Icknield Way, the B489. You have works taking place at the junction with Main Road North, the A4146. And the works continue in Dunstable on Pointers Road. It's still shut for major reconstruction works and will be through until mid-September between the A505 at the Tesco roundabout and Wheatfield Road at the Woodside Industrial Estate. Diversion down the A505, Boscombe Road and Ports Avenue. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Just had a tweet about the Great Train Robbers. Iain, you're right about the Great Train Robbers. Bunch of naughty men. He's used different word for that, but I think he's right.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 7 o'clock. I'm Catherine Boyle. The headlines: family demands justice for Luton rioter, doctors welcome A&E plans, and train robbery police officers honoured.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riot are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long sentence. Police connected Wayne Collins Taylor with a group of men who started a fire at the Barton Arms pub in 2011. The following year, he was sentenced to 18 years under joint enterprise legislation. He's already served 2 years, which his aunt, Debbie Taylor, says has made a significant impact.
His whole character's changed. His perception of the UK justice system's changed. His understanding of what freedom is all about and how just being in the wrong place at the wrong time and also just meeting the wrong person at the wrong time could have such an impact on one's life.
More on this coming up in the next half hour with Iain Lee. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. £500 million will be spent over the next 2 years in an effort to cut delays at A&E and improve services in other areas. The Labour Health spokesman, Lord Philip Hunt, said it's too little, too late.
We need to make sure capacity in A&E is up to scratch. We've got to get qualified nurses back onto the wards. We've seen a reduction in the last 3 years. That can't be right. And of course, social services needs to develop their capacity again. They need to be able to support frail older people when they've been discharged from hospital.
Inspectors say UK border staff based in France are failing to take the fingerprints of thousands of illegal immigrants caught trying to enter Britain. The discovery was made during an inspection of border controls at key routes between continental Europe and the UK. 50 years after the great train robbery at Ledburn near Mentmore, the Buckinghamshire constabulary officers involved have received special commendations. The Chief Constable of Thames Valley Police created the one-off awards to mark the 50th anniversary of the crime. PC John Woolley, who discovered the gang's hideout, and Aylesbury detective Keith Milner were among the officers honoured at a ceremony last night. Businesses in Dunstable say the 11-week roadworks on Pointers Road are impacting on trade. Diversions have been in place since work began on July the 8th. Viv Inn says the customer numbers are right down at her hair salon.
We're probably about 40% down. We feel that we've lost customers because they can't be bothered to be in the traffic queues, with probably the prospect of them not actually coming back.
In sport, the Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has promised strong and decisive action over what he calls the total disrespect shown to the club by Luis Suarez. The strikers accused Liverpool of failing to honour an agreement that he could leave the club if it didn't qualify for the Champions League. But Rodgers says no promises were made and none broken. The weather dry and fine with a top temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, that's 75 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Excuse me. Did you say... You said a little bit of Northern came out there.
Oh, really?
Oh, numbers at her hairdresser. Ring down, Lee.
Oh, that was Northern, was it? Were you doing a voice there?
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. 3 minutes past 7, it's Thursday, it's the 8th of August. We're going for a little works trip after this. Don't say it too loudly, some people haven't been invited. Some people haven't been invited. Catherine Boyle. Lots coming up on today's programme. The Great Train Robbery. Why, or are we fascinated by it? 50 years since the Great Train Robbery took place. Oh, Catherine sent me a very rude message. I'm tempted to read it. The heist took place in Buckinghamshire, so that's why we're talking about it today. But really, should we be giving it that much attention? There's already been a few comments on Facebook saying, no, it's only the media that perpetuates the story. The Prime Minister is announcing extra money for hospital A&E departments in England. £500 million will be made available, spread over the next 2 years, and will include £15 million for the troubled 111 phone service. Well, is that going to be enough to save it? More on that in the next hour. And roadworks. Are they driving you mad? We speak to one Bedfordshire lady who wants compensation because her road will be closed for over 2.5 months while it gets resurfaced. Should she expect compensation, or should she be grateful the council are actually doing something? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Text 81333, start your text 3CR. Or you've been a little bit quiet on the phones, don't be shy. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Today, hey, happy Great Train Robbery Day, guys. It's the 50th anniversary of the Great Train Robbery in Buckinghamshire. It's been the subject of books, films, TV programmes, and dubbed one of the greatest crimes of the 20th century. Greatest in what sense? Well, our reporter Tony Fisher is by the bridge where it all happened. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, Ian.
You're coming live from the bridge where it all happened. Are you getting a sense of the history by being stood there?
I'm not getting a sense of déjà vu, no, because it was quite a long time ago. And I'm standing by the bridge in a little field. A lovely morning, Ian. The sun coming up over the railway line. It's gorgeous.
Give us a little background to this case.
Well, 50 years ago today, moonlit morning, the train was coming down the tracks, Ian, about half a mile from where I'm standing now, coming down from Glasgow to Euston. high-value goods train, and the train robbers stopped the train at a place called Sears Crossing, as I say, half a mile down the tracks. They couldn't unload anything there, so they had to bring the train to the point where I am now. So what they did is they put a little leather glove over the green signal, stopped the train, and forced their way into the engine. The train driver, Jack Mills, put up quite a big defence of his cab and was unfortunately rendered unconscious. Now, the gang had had the foresight to bring along with them their own train driver to bring the train to this point here at Bridego Bridge near Cheddington, but he couldn't start the train, so they had to get the existing train driver, Jack Mills, who'd been unconscious. They had to force him to bring the train down here, having uncoupled the two important carriages behind the main engine, which had all the money in it, and they uncoupled those carriages without, amazingly, alerting anyone else on the rest of the train. And they brought the train down to the point where I am now, Bridego Bridge, and the train robber, the leader of the gang, the late Bruce Reynolds, this is him describing in his own words what happened.
We waited while we saw silhouetted against the night sky. The train heard all the clankings that were going on while it was being uncoupled. And finally, very, very slowly but inexorably, it pulled away from the rest of the train, the loco and two carriages, and with that we drove to the next stop, which was Bridego Bridge, and there the assault took place.
What happened at the bridge after the train stopped, Tony?
Well, Ian, interesting. Thames Valley Police are doing a live tweet of what their police logs said. So you can have a look at that on their police website, the Thames Valley Police website. But as you say, it's here at Bridego Bridge where they stopped the train. They stopped the engine over the bridge. The two important carriages behind overlooked the accessible embankment, and the robbers forced their way into the high-value package coach. They then made a human chain past the sacks of money, which weighed 2.5 tonnes in total, down the embankment into waiting lorries and vehicles, and it was a grand total of just over £2.6 million, around £46 million in today's money, and that was all usable money, used £1, £5 notes, 10 shillings. Insurance companies at the time predicted it would be the biggest single loss ever known, and bank shares dropped 7 points overnight.
What happened next?
Well, what happened next? The robbers, they left the train. They made one of their biggest mistakes. They told the train crew and the post office staff not to move for half an hour, which gave the police later indications that they would be within a 30-minute radius. They then fled to Leatherslade Farm, which was on the Buckinghamshire-Oxfordshire border in Brill, just to the west of Aylesbury, through the country lanes, and there they'd bought a farm, the farm Leatherslade Farm, beforehand, which they'd promised to do up, and there they lay low for several days, and the story has it they drank cups of tea, ate, drank, and they played Monopoly with real money. That's how the story goes. But the gang's quick exit proved crucial to the police investigation. Forensic experts found fingerprints on the cups in the bathroom, the cat's bowl, and of course the Monopoly set. And to make matters worse, one of the robbers, Jim Hussey, had left a handprint on the train itself. So for all the commando-style precision of planning the raid in the first place and cutting the telephone wires by Sears Crossing, so that the calls couldn't come through to the police, they let themselves down badly by leaving all the evidence behind at the farm. And one of the gang had been charged with clearing up by basically torching it, but he'd failed to do so. Now, police were alerted by a nearby farmer who'd seen some unusual comings and goings. He'd known that the farm had been up for sale and wondered what was going on. Police were alerted. One of the first policeman on the scene was retired policeman John Woolley. He was only 25 at the time, and he describes finding the Royal Mail sacks in the cellar.
Well, I pulled one of those sacks over onto the steps in front of me, and I suppose was slightly surprised to find that it wasn't the corn sack, the potato sack that I perhaps half expected it might be, but it was in fact a canvas mail bag. And as the top flopped open, I could see parcel wrappers.
Tony, how long was it before any of the men were caught?
9 men alleged to have been involved were in police custody on New Year's Day 1964, so not long after. Some appeared at Linslade Courthouse. Linslade was in Buckinghamshire at that point rather than in Bedfordshire. Everyone was eventually caught and sentenced to a total of 307 years in prison. That was reduced to 251 on appeal. Of the £2.6 million stolen, only around 335,000 was ever recovered. As you said at the beginning, Ian, great, why great? We always talk about this robbery in revered terms. I think some people, especially the son of Jack Mills, the train driver, would rather that we didn't. But retired policeman John Woolley, who we heard from earlier, who discovered the hideout, he doesn't think that this robbery will be celebrated for much longer.
It was styled as the crime of the century. And when you take into account the vast amount of money that was stolen, the equivalent of £40 million, and remember, this was all in banknotes, this was all usable money, not something that you'd got to sell for whatever price you could get for it. Over the 50 years, it's been celebrated, the various occasions that crop up, escapes, rearrests, that sort of thing. It's not going to happen much longer, though.
Well, that's retired policeman John Woolley, ending that report by Tony Fisher. On the line is John Prosser. John is from Brill in Bucks, which is where the robbers used Leatherslade Farm as their hideout. Morning, John. What are your memories of living in Brill in August 1963?
Oh, good morning. Well, I've lived in Brill all my life. It's a very quiet village on top of the hill, 640 feet high. And at this time, the village was a quiet, lovely village, still is, as a matter of fact. Suddenly, it seemed all hell broke loose. The police were all over the place. The press were here in great numbers. And the pubs were suddenly turned into lively places where people all went to catch up on the gossip, which was rife. Some people went down, we found it was down Rymel's Lane, and the hideout was down Rymel's Lane. Some people went down there in the vain hope of finding some money. No one ever did. And the national press asked we people that had phones weren't quite as common in those days as they are now, and they asked for the use of the phone and gave us £5 for the use of the phone, for the total use of the phone.
I imagine, for being such a quiet place to being such a noisy place, it was quite exciting.
Oh, very exciting. Oh, yes, it was a buzz. It was very exciting. And as I said, people went to the pubs to pick up and keep up with the gossip. The police were all over the place. Incidentally, the police station and court at Brill was built to exactly the same plan as the one at Linslade, where the court robbers went. At the time, we were building a house I was a builder, building a house in the high street, and for a joke, I suppose, I put a notice on my lorry, will carry 2.5 million anywhere.
There you go, you see.
But I didn't get any off.
You didn't get any, I'm afraid. That's a shame. John, do you think we're in danger of glorifying the criminals?
No, I don't think so. They did cosh the unfortunate van driver, but other than that, it wasn't a vicious crime, was it? No one was injured apart from that was a bad
one man.
That was a shame, of course.
Yes.
But other than that one incident, it wasn't a vicious crime, was it?
John, thank you very much. We have to end it there. John Prosser from Brill in Bucks, where the robbers used Leatherslade Farm as their hideout. What do you think? It's interesting. It wasn't a vicious crime, apart from that one fellow that got whacked round the head. I don't get the Great Train Robbery. I don't quite understand the fascination with it. Is it just me? Am I just being disinterested in social history? Do you get it? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call on that. 7:16 or thereabouts on BBC Three Counties Radio. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 anti-clockwise has been closed because of a lorry fire between junction 25 at Enfield and 24 at Potters Bar. Congestion back to the M11 at junction 27. It's a lorry that caught fire through the roadworks section. A full closure in place there. Clockwise has been closed as well. It's shut between junction 23 at the A1M and 25 at Enfield. So that's fully closed from those two junctions, and no entry, of course, at junction 24 Potters Bar as a result. The A1 looking quite slow into London through Edgware, with delays from Apex Corner toward Mill Hill Circus. And other routes through the three counties so far this morning are running well. Trains and tubes, no problems reported. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, it's coming up to 7:17 on Thursday the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riots are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long 18-year sentence. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. In sport, the Liverpool manager, Brendan Rodgers, has promised strong and decisive action over, in his words, the total disrespect shown towards the club by Luis Suarez. Coming up, 2 years since the riots. We'll hear about one man who's been sentenced to 18 years in prison and finding out why his family are hoping to get that sentence reduced. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Every weekday morning from 9, the JVS Show.
You just can't carry on with life. It's just awful.
With the biggest opinions.
It's about time somebody or an organisation has stood up and basically smelt the coffee.
Well, yeah, it depends on the individual, actually.
Let's pollute the planet even more. We should pollute it so much your Pinot Grigio goes rotten.
And the biggest local talking points.
What we really need to do is for everyone in the country to reduce their energy consumption, not increase it.
The JVS Show, weekdays from 9, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Oh, I've had a tweet from, who is this? John S _UKIP. I wonder what he's aligned with. He wants to know why. I want to know, Iain, why interviewers are adopting the ignorant attitude of keep arrogantly asking the same question over answers. The reason I ask the same question, John, is because when the question isn't answered, I like to push it until the question is answered. I spoke over that, John. He's talking about the train gentleman earlier on. I spoke over him because he was repeating the same answer. So that's why. No arrogance and no ignorance, John. Not on my part, anyway. I couldn't possibly comment on yours. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give me a call. It's 2 years since riots swept through cities across England. At the time, the government said tough sentences would show there were consequences to disorder. Well, Wayne Collins, 25, a barber from Luton, is now serving an 18-year sentence for his part in the Birmingham disorders. He was imprisoned under the controversial law of joint enterprise. We'll explain that in a little bit. His family and lawyers were shocked by the 18-year conviction and are now appealing against the length of his sentence in the High Court. A petition started by his family has gained nearly 10,000 signatures, and now the MP for Luton, Kelvin Hopkins, has backed the campaign by writing to the Justice Secretary. Our reporter Richard Williams spoke to Debbie Taylor, Wayne's aunt, about his conviction, and she explained why he was travelling to Birmingham.
He was going to meet these, well, when I say these, I'd say a friend that it was more of an associate. He wasn't somebody that I would class as a friend because we didn't know him, but it's somebody he'd met in Iain when he was on holiday.
When did you first realise potentially something had gone quite badly wrong up there?
I was contacted via the family on the 11th of August. During that time, I didn't even know that Wayne had already been arrested for 2 days. Prior to that, he was arrested on the 9th. When I found out, I was completely just freaked out.
For the police to make that conclusion to arrest Wayne on suspicion, what circumstances did he put himself in that made him open to that?
It boiled down to that he was in a situation that he didn't have a choice. You know, he didn't have the options there.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he was caught up in an area that, number one, he didn't know. Number two, you know, being caught up in a situation where you didn't know what was going to happen. You're walking down a street. You know, you've lost the people that you was with or the person that he was with, and all of a sudden you're just in this crowd there's noise, there's just so much going on, but he could not turn around and say, well, I know that person, this person and that person. And even in court, not one of the defendants stroke co-defendants there stood up and said, or in the statement said, they knew Wayne Collins.
Why that night, though, when it was all going off, didn't he just walk away, get in his car and go? That was what a lot of people would be saying now. Why didn't he, if he saw this trouble going on around him, get out of there?
Because at that time, when he didn't know where his car was, so he'd left his car, he'd got caught up in this crowd, so he's just gone with the crowd, looking around thinking, gosh, how can I get out of here?
What impact has the last 2 years in prison had on Wayne?
His whole character's changed. His perception of the UK justice system's changed. His understanding of what freedom is all about and how just being in the wrong place at the wrong time and also just meeting the wrong person at the wrong time could have such an impact on one's life.
And what a lot of people won't realise is he's a dad, isn't he?
He's a dad that's a young dad, and his son and his partner who has taken it really, really badly, because you've got to look at your child's going to be a teenager. What I said to Wayne was really important for him to understand, that in order for him to get through this was you have to adapt to the way prison life is in order to make it through. Because if you don't adapt to that system, it will destroy you.
Well, that's our reporter Richard Williams speaking to Debbie Taylor, Wayne's aunt. Joined now by Dr Andrew Green, who is from the organisation Innocent, who campaigns for people who are wrongly convicted, and he's also an expert on the law of joint enterprise. I hadn't heard of this law before this morning, Andrew. Explain the law of joint enterprise.
I'll do my best. It's quite complicated. It's a legal doctrine rather than a law, which has been developed as common law by judges. And it applies where a group of people are acting together and one member of the group commits a crime and the others can all be held guilty of that same crime, even though they didn't actually do it, as long as they can be considered to have had foresight that the person who actually did it, the perpetrator, that he or she might commit such a crime.
There was a landmark case, wasn't there, in 1985 regarding foresight. What was that?
Well, it's just introduced the idea of foresight. It was actually a robbery case from Hong Kong, and it simply introduced that concept of foresight, that people acting together could be convicted of a crime, even if they didn't do it, because they could be held to have foresight that the other person would do it.
Is it a law that works, Andrew, or does it need a total overhaul?
I think, other aspects of joint enterprise may work. It was used, say, in the Nuremberg trials, where people who were just administrators, say, at concentration camps, were held responsible for the murders committed there, which seems quite reasonable to me. But the problem with it is, in this country, and the way it's been applied since 1985, is that the standard of proof in joint enterprise cases has been lowered far below other cases. If there's the police are investigating a murder, they have to prove that what you might call an ordinary murder. They have to prove, say, that someone actually plunged a knife into someone else or shot them. There's forensic evidence. There's evidence of the person's intent, things like that. But it's not necessary in joint enterprise cases. They just have to prove that someone is a member of a group and that someone in that group committed the crime.
So the level of evidence required is much less?
Much, much less, yes. It's very easy to prove that someone's a member of a group. It's just done because, say, phone calls were exchanged or someone was in the same place as the group.
Is the use of this law for conviction on the increase?
Well, it seems to be. There's no statistics gathered about it. Keir Starmer, the Director of Public Prosecutions, was asked about it by the House of Commons Justice Committee, and he said no statistics are gathered, and no one seems to be gathering statistics. But there seem to be organisations like Innocent get a large number of cases which we didn't have before. Innocent's been going 20 years. And it's only in the last few years we've been getting a lot of serious joint enterprise cases, mostly murders. These are very serious cases.
And there are calls for the government to look at this law. Are they going to?
Well, it's certainly not. It's been ruled out by a government minister who said there's simply no time in the legislation timetable, so it's not going to happen under this government. I don't think it's going to happen. There are no signs. And in any case, I don't think people in the government or in the judiciary or anywhere are taking seriously this problem of the low standard of proof. It's a law that's been developed by judges, as I said. It's common law. It's never been legislated on. It's never been before Parliament. It's never been subject to sort of democratic debate.
Thanks very much for joining us. That's Dr. Andrew Green, who is from the organisation Innocent, who campaign for people who are wrongly convicted.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Roadworks, road closures, the bane of people's lives. But they're essential, aren't they? And most organisations... But I remember back in the day, a phrase I hate, that British Gas would come and dig up the road and they'd seal it up. Then a week later, Thames Water would come along and then they'd seal it up. And then the council would come. Now, don't they have to? Have I got this wrong? Don't they have to all kind of chip in and do their work at the same time? Don't they? Pat has texted 81333. Start your text 3CR. I'm fed up with road closures, so I can understand why local businesses are suffering. Councils should be made to give back business rates that shop owners have paid until the works are finished. Perhaps then the Highways Authority would put in more manpower to speed up the roadworks. Also, I get fed up with coming up against a sign which reads road closed. Naming the road would be useful instead of having to look for which road is closed. Well, it's interesting you say people should be giving back their council tax and their business tax, but ultimately they will have a better road, won't they? They'll have better services, won't they? I do know what you mean about them being a bit slow, though. Do you remember there was a massive earthquake in Japan? Not the last one, the one before, maybe about 5 years ago. And there were pictures of a motorway that had literally been ripped in half. 48 hours later, they'd fixed it. They just blitzed it. 48 hours later, they fixed it. Here, it's like 3 months. 08459 455 555 is the phone number if you want to give us a call. 29 minutes past 7, BBC Three Counties Radio. Let's get the travel now with Adam.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 anti-clockwise is still closed. It's queuing after a lorry fire, and that's between junction 25 at Enfield and 24 at Potters Bar that we have the closure. Congestion is back into Essex as far as the M11 at junction 27, so severe delays through there. The clockwise side, which was shut past the scene, has now reopened, but it's still looking very slow from the A1M and indeed a little bit back before the A1M all the way through and past Enfield at junction 25. If you're continuing round anti-clockwise, there's also the usual slow patch of traffic from Maple Cross to the M40. The A1 into London, slow through Edgware from Apex Corner to Mill Hill Circus. Busy if you cross the M25 near to Cheshunt and go through Enfield. The A10 looking slow from Bullsmore Lane to Southbury Road. And we've still got those works in Ivor Heath. The A412 being closed off for works between Thornbridge Road and the 5 Points roundabout. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
With the 7:30 headlines, I'm Catherine Boyle. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riot are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long 18-year sentence. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. And 50 years after the great train robbery at Ledburn near Mentmore, the Buckinghamshire Constabulary officers involved have received special commendations.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
What But Milton Keynes Dons and Stevenage will be in this lunchtime's Capital One Cup second round draw after wins on Tuesday night. Premier League clubs not involved in European competition enter the League Cup draw today. MK Dons manager Carl Robinson says it can give his young players vital experience.
People may look at Carl's disrespected by playing a team with an average age of 20, but it's not. It's a great building block for us as a football club to use these opportunities to play the young players in.
The English and Welsh Cricket Board have asked the Australian broadcasters Channel 9 for an apology after they accused batsmen of using silicone tape to try to trick the decision review system during the Ashes. One of the players implicated was Kevin Peterson, who called the suggestions hurtful lies. And the former England bowler Matthew Hoggard believes the ECB are well within their rights to seek an apology.
Yeah, of course you are. You've just blatantly accused somebody of cheating. You can't just accuse one person of cheating. It has to come out and say, right, then hold your hand up, we made an apology. It's not even against the rules. You're allowed to put silicone tape on your bat if you want to, but I don't think the batters are.
The US PGA Championship starts later today at Oak Hill, with Rory McIlroy looking to recapture the form that saw him win last year's tournament. McIlroy was victorious by a huge margin at Kiowa Island, but has struggled for form since. But he says any setbacks will make him a better player in the long run.
Every period's character building. You know, I went through the same sort of thing last year, and you learn something from it and you move on, and life would be pretty boring if it was easy all the time. So it's great that you have these challenges, and you try and get over them, and you learn something from them and move on.
And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, coming up, more on the Great Train Robbery. Do you get it? Is it one of those stories that interests you, excites you? In terms of crimes of the 20th century, I don't think it's particularly exciting. The assassination of JFK, Watergate, these are kind of the exciting crimes. This is just a bunch of chancers who whacked a fella over the back of the head and stole a few million quid. I don't get it, but I know a lot of you do. And I'd really appreciate it if you could call up and explain to me. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Also be talking about roadworks as well a little bit later on. Now, more on the news that the government is going to give struggling accident and emergency departments in England a shot in the arm, to help them get through the winter. You see what they did there. A one-off cash boost of £500 million will be spent to help the departments cope with the pressures over a 2-year period. But how much of a difference will it make? Dr Clifford Mann is an A&E consultant and president of the College of Emergency Medicine. He doesn't believe it's enough.
There's no long-term plan here. There's no major reform of the way in which we're going to deliver emergency care and make it both sustainable for the taxpayer, but also sustainable for the doctors and nurses that work in emergency medicine.
Well, we can speak to our reporter Gavin Lee, who's been looking at this. Gavin, what are the issues here?
Well, it's how you stop the headlines of last year, which were pretty awful, and the massive problems with NHS at the A&E level and actually managing accident emergency. So this is money, not necessarily new money, it's coming from existing budgets, but it's 250 million that's been shifted round for use explicitly for A&Es across the country. 250 million for this winter, 250 million for the winter of 2014, which is interesting because it takes us up to the next general election then. And some of the criticism we have heard is it's just a sticking plaster, no more than that. And then, once the elections happen, they can deal with the bigger picture there. But it's money that goes to some of the 50 hospitals. This is not an automatic allocation. This is for those that have suffered the most, and the hospitals will have to basically bid for this money, and which has led to some of the criticism as well, with those saying, well, those who have failed will potentially get rewarded with the most.
So where is this money being spent then?
Well, it's not going to be for just as simply as the government sees it, to react and for hospitals to just basically top up staffing levels at A&E units. The government's saying it's looking for ideas from different hospital trusts to manage demand at hospitals. So it may be, for example, a big part of last year, a big part of the problem was, and throughout some of this year as well, a quarter of those going into A&E don't actually need to be there at all. So it may be that some of the units decide they're going to spend the money on other things, primary care, pharmacies, adult social care, trying to stop so many people turning up at A&E, or different ways of doing A&E. There's talk of a consultant-led triage, or different, potentially better ways, arguably, to do it. But it's all a sideshow, I think. The key event is going to be next month. So Bruce Keogh, the medical director of the NHS, is going to report about how accident emergency services are actually working in general, he's expected to point to the idea of consolidation. So there'll be fewer A&E units in future, but they would work much better, much more focused on dealing with accident emergency provision rather than just spend, so it gets bigger, wider and more of a problem. So, that's the thing a lot of people are waiting for.
We heard a moment ago criticism from one A&E consultant saying he doesn't think the money will be enough.
Yeah.
The £500 million, sorry. Is it enough? What's the government saying?
Well, it's only going to go so far, isn't it? When you think about so many of the most needy 50 hospitals, it's, as Labour have said, it's a drop in the ocean. And they're also saying their view is there aren't enough nurses. They want more people working in A&E. There simply isn't enough staff. Weekends is a big problem. There should be a focus on doctors working a 7-day week, they say, because that is a way of actually improving the service. Jeremy Hunt, the Health Secretary, have said, as he sees it, the money will give patients confidence in the system for the next 2 years. It'll prepare A&E departments for the winter period and potentially stave off some of the bad headlines to come. So I think there's a general agreement that this is potentially a very good thing, but for the short term.
Gavin Lee, thank you very much.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Happy Great Train Robbery Day, guys. Are people interested in it? I don't know. If we go by what people are saying on Facebook, and don't we all base our lives on what people are saying on Facebook these days? Don't we? If we don't, we should. Then, no, most people aren't. Let's just read some of the comments. Jane says, I watched Mrs. Biggs on TV recently about the aftermath of Ronnie going on the run with his wife and kids. Have to say, it was a great drama programme. Jackie says, it's the media, not us. We've heard it all before. And Jenny says, I'm not fascinated. I'm not even vaguely interested. A bunch of thugs who did the crime, but in some cases ran away rather than do the time. Yes, only one person was injured, and maybe if he died at the time rather than later, some people might not have made the thieves out to be cunning heroes. But how many other lives have they adversely affected by their actions, both at the time and since? Well, we're talking about it because it is 50 years since the great train robbery. Justin, you are fascinated by it.
Yes, I am, and I think interesting to know those people you mentioned there, were they actually around back in 1963? Because certainly the people that I talked to about 1963 who were alive certainly remember this day 50 years ago today incredibly well.
No, you weren't alive then. You are a relatively young man, although middle age is creeping upon you quicker than you'd like to acknowledge.
Yes, okay.
What is it about the Great Train Robbery that fascinates you?
Well, I think it's the history as well. If you look at the people that put this together, if you like, they were normal people. That sounds ridiculous to say that because they were robbers, but they were normal people. You had a florist in there, for argument's sake. I think the way they put this together at that particular time, this was a big deal. I think if you said to anybody right now that was alive at that time, what were you doing on the 8th of August 1963, they would know exactly where they were and what they were doing.
Yeah, I was on a train coshing someone. They're thugs, Justin. They're just thugs.
But then again, you look at all robberies and heists throughout time, people have always had a fascination.
Yep.
How on earth did they manage to pull this off? At that time, that was a huge amount of money, the equivalent to over £40 million today. We're talking about a vast amount of money, and they've managed to put this plan together and actually carry it off. Yes, they didn't quite make it through because at Leatherslade Farm, what was meant to happen was the building they were in that was meant to be torched. That didn't happen. The evidence was then left, and then of course they were caught. But I think it was the fact, how on earth did they pull this off? That's why people were fascinated back then.
Do you know one of the things that annoys me about these thugs? Ronnie Biggs. Ronnie Biggs goes to, was it Spain he was in? Mexico. And he's just there laughing at us. He's laughing at us. He's been part of a nasty, horrible crime, and he spent so many years laughing at us. Oh, and then suddenly he's not very well and he needs the NHS. Oh, I'll come back and have some of that, shall I? I just think that's outrageous.
But a lot of people at the time, and again, I could be wrong here, but I'm going on programmes that I've seen and research in the past, a lot of people will be sticking their thumbs up saying, well done.
Yep.
You've got one over on the government, you've got the money, you're living the life, good on you.
They will be, definitely. You've been speaking to people this morning. What have they been saying to you?
Well, yeah, you don't really get the fascination. No. So you sent me out earlier on. I've been asking people, why is there such a fascination still 50 years on? And this is what people had to say.
I think it's just a case it was something in history. What happened in Leighton Buzzard, round that way. And it's local as well. No, it just fascinates people that it happened around here.
Because, you know, us today on Three Counties, a number of the networks are going to be talking about it. Do you think it's justified that we talk about that, despite it being 50 years ago?
Definitely, yeah. I think we should keep on talking about our history and all the rest of it.
You don't think we're glamorising it, do you?
Oh, no. I think sometimes it has to be brought up again in case it happens again. You never know these days.
50 years on? It was 8 years before I was born. But yeah, I do hear about it because obviously it's local, and I lived in Leighton Buzzard for quite a while, so obviously it's a big thing there because obviously it was local, and when I've been on trains and that, you know, going through that way, they've sort of said, oh, this is where it happened. So yeah, I've learned about it from family and stuff, so yeah.
I suppose because of the nature of the crime at the time.
Well, it was the first of the great robberies, wasn't it? I mean, when you think, that money today...
It's the equivalent to 46 million.
Yeah.
Good question. I don't see why myself, personally speaking. First Royal Mail, probably an embarrassment that they couldn't live down.
Well, people are interested by it. I think part of it is when was it 63? So part of it is, you know, the 60s were just starting to get swinging, and I guess maybe this counterculture was starting to become a little bit cooler.
Quite possibly, and again, you know, you heard people there talk about the history, that's one thing, but of course locally, up and down the country today, people talking about this happened in our patch. You know, when you think about where the robbery took place, you think about where the robbers then went afterwards, over to Brill in Buckinghamshire, it's local as well, so people in Beds, Herts and Bucks are probably going to have a more keener interest, let's say, than people from across the UK, because for us, this happened locally. Such a big crime happened here in our patch.
Well, it's at times like this, Justin, I like to say local and vocal.
Exactly. A bit like yourself on the back of those buses.
Thank you very much indeed, Justin Dealey. Well, someone who was 38 years old when this crime took place. 38 years old. Isn't that mental? 2 years younger than I am now. Dennis in Dunstable.
Good morning.
I hope I don't live as long as you.
No. And incidentally, that creaking sound you heard the other day was not my chair, it was my knees.
Your niece? Well, tell her to stop.
I can't do anything. You have to stand up the creak.
You were nearly 40 when the Great Train Robbery took place.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yes.
Where were you, sir? Where were you on August the 8th?
I lived here in Dunstable.
Right.
I don't say exactly what I was doing, but through some comments on one of your previous people on the, I had to come down to you to pick up a book about a novel which had been written about it, to ask me what I thought about it. It wasn't very good. No. He certainly wasn't Shakespeare. No. But I think the problem was...
I don't think Shakespeare wrote about the Great Train Robbery.
No, I don't think so for 1 minute. But I think it was exciting at the time. It was like Cowboys and Indians. And although they said nobody got hurt, that poor old fellow got thumped. And then I believe he subsequently died.
Well, he did die. I don't know how long after, but yeah, he got whacked over the back of the head and he died. So people say, oh, listen, it was little men against the big men. It wasn't a violent crime. Well, it was a violent crime, but a fella got coshed.
I think the whole thing kept going because of the fellow who pushed off to Brazil, married a Brazilian girl, had a Brazilian baby, and they couldn't get him out of Brazil until he finally came back of his own accord. I think when he'd spent all the money. I mean,
he's even in films, Ronnie Biggs. He's in the Sex Pistols film, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle.
Yeah, I know. It was. I think that's what dragged it on, because of this kept on going back to Brazil to try and dig him out. But
do you get it, Dennis? Should we be celebrating these thugs?
I don't think celebrating. I think they ought to celebrate the poor old man who got plumped. And at the time, I think there was more interest in punishing these people for stealing money than for murder.
Ever stolen anything, Dennis?
No. Why do I need to...
Come on, we've all stolen bits and pieces.
What was stolen? Perhaps some paper clips from work.
You never been a little bit light-fingered at any point in your life?
There's no point in it, is there?
All right, I'll tell you what, I've stolen a couple of things.
Have you?
Yeah, 17 years old, I went to HMV in London. There were two Elvis CDs, Elvis 68 Comeback Special and Elvis Live at Madison Square Gardens. I wanted them both. I couldn't afford either of them. So I put them in my bag before the times of electronic tagging. Not proud of it. Put them in my bag, walked out. Felt incredibly guilty, so I went back and paid for one of them.
What a delightful person you are.
Oh, no. Listen, not proud of it. This was 23 years ago. Not proud of it in the slightest. So thoroughly ashamed of it.
Well, why don't you go and pay for the second one?
That's not a bad point, actually, is it?
Now you've admitted it.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. I'm not going to go back into HMV. See, by the way, 23 years ago, I started. Maybe I'll make a little donation to a charity. How about that?
Well, that's absolutely.
There we go. 15 quid to a charity.
Yeah.
Dennis, do me a favour.
Yes.
Hang up on me.
Goodbye.
Fantastic.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still severe delays on the M25. Anti-clockwise, it remains shut following a lorry fire between Enfield at junction 25 and Potters Bar at junction 24. Congestion is pretty much back as far as the M11 at junction 27. Your diversion, follow the hollow yellow square symbols on the road signs, which will take you along the A10, the North Circular Road and then the A1 to rejoin the M25 at junction 23. It's also looking slow in the usual spot anti-clockwise from Maple Cross to the M40. Clockwise, queuing from the A1M through to Enfield. This is through the roadworks. Congestion back to junction 22 at London Coney as well. Of course, we did have the closure on the clockwise side past the scene of that lorry fire. Everything has reopened clockwise, but you're still going to find it very, very busy. There are delays on the A10 through Cheshunt southbound from the A121 down toward the M25, not helped by those problems. And then it's slow through Enfield as well from Bullsmore Lane to Southbury Road. And the A1 in Edgware looking busy from Apex Corner to Mill Hill Circus. Trains running well. If you're heading for London on the tubes, minor delays for the Northern Line Camden Town to High Barnet. There was a faulty train at Highgate. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. If we're celebrating 50 years of the Great Train Robbery, why don't we celebrate the bits and pieces that you nicked? Not condoning it, it's very, very naughty. I've admitted to nicking a couple of CDs 23 years ago, and I do feel very, very bad about it. What bits and pieces have found their way into your life that don't belong to you? What have you tea-leafed, dear listener? 08459 455 555. Right, 7:47. It's Thursday, the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted after the Birmingham riots are fighting to reduce what they say is an unreasonably long 18-year sentence. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. In sport, the Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has promised strong and decisive action over, in his words, the total disrespect shown towards the club by Luis Suarez. Coming up, roadworks. They're not fun, are they? Particularly not if you live in Dunstable. We'll find out exactly what's going on after the weather with Elizabeth Rizzini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, very good morning to you. It is a rather chilly start to the day. We've seen temperatures drop into single figures, actually, quite widely across the three counties overnight. Warming up now in the sunshine. Lots of sunshine for the rest of the day. A few more mist patches to get rid of, but a bit more cloud bubbling up here and there into the afternoon. So more like sunny spells a bit later on through the afternoon. Best of the sunshine will be this morning, but find a sunny spot and it'll feel reasonably pleasant, actually, with just light winds. We're looking at temperatures up to 22 or 23 degrees Celsius in Stevenage, in Hertford and in St Albans, in Aylesbury as well. So not looking too bad. Temperatures low 20s really. The outside chance of catching one or two light showers as we head through the late afternoon and the first part of the evening, but the vast majority of places are going to stay dry. Overnight tonight, few changes. We'll start to see the clouds thicken. A milder night than we saw last night, lows 13 or 14 degrees. And then as we head into rush hour tomorrow, we're likely to see a few outbreaks of rain. Could see some sharp showers around at times too. Bit of a cloudier day tomorrow. Again, temperatures hitting the low 20s. Bit of sunshine perhaps later on through the day. Dry and fine on Saturday. There will be some more rain on Sunday. That's the forecasting.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Chetan Partuk on BBC Three Counties Radio.
As Muslims celebrate the end of Ramadan, this Sunday night I'll be broadcasting live from Campbell Park in Milton Keynes for a special Eid festival in the park. It's one of the biggest events in the Muslim calendar as people mark the end of a month of fasting.
Chetan Partuk.
We'll bring you all the sights and sounds from the festival. So join me this Sunday evening from 6, live from Campbell Park in Milton Keynes on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Residents down Lewis Road say the traffic caused by roadworks in Dunstable is incredibly dangerous. The Pointers Road repair works has seen the road closed for 11 weeks since July the 8th. Now, traffic using Lewis Road in Luton eyes a through road which residents say is inappropriately narrow. Our reporter Sophie Solaria went out with site manager Ben Gadsby to check out the problem.
We're just going to drive around the diversion route, going through the Woodside Industrial Estate to the site vehicle access on Paws Avenue.
And this is instead of going on Pointers Road?
Instead of going on Pointers Road, vehicles are directed along Dunstable Road. They turn right at Boscombe Road, which we're on now. We then follow this, following the sign, so you can see the diverted traffic sign. And as you can see, it's not a busy diversion.
But then it is 2:15 in the afternoon.
Which is just around shift change of the industrial estate.
But it's not the start of work and the end of work.
So you're not during peak time. I would welcome you coming back at peak time, because I drive to site this way every day and I'm rarely stuck in traffic.
What about the diverted traffic that's leading off Lucy Road, for example?
We haven't diverted any traffic towards Lucy Road. That's not part of our signed diversion. We understand that this is being used by local traffic, but we don't have any powers to control that.
But that's still an issue for the people that live down that narrow road.
It is an issue, but we don't have the power to sign that as part of our diversion. If local traffic decide that that's the best route for them, we don't have the power to stop them.
I'm coming up Leagrave High Street now and turning into Lucy Road, where I have been told the problems are particularly difficult in terms of traffic from people avoiding Pointers Road and using Lucy Road as a through road. It is very congested round here, and actually behind the traffic is an ambulance. The ambulance lights aren't on, but I can imagine if they were, it would be a pretty heavy squeeze to try and get the ambulance from an emergency to the hospital at the other end of the road. It's been 15 minutes now and I'm still on Lucy Road, still in traffic, and it's actually only 3:30, so I'm not sure what it would be like at the end of the day. And it's been so slow, my sat-nav has just asked me if I want to switch to pedestrian mode. I'm going to stop and try and speak to some residents to see how they've been affected by this.
Got nose-to-tail traffic near enough all day, and I even have a job to get my car out.
How are people coping?
It's difficult.
It's horrendous. It's really the ambulances. My daughter works in A&E and she knows it's difficult for them to get through. That's not right, is it? I just hope nobody dies through it.
Well, I've been saying the name wrong the whole time. Someone forgot to put a Y in the name. Thanks, guys. With us now is Lucy Road resident Joan Bodymead. Morning, Joan.
Good morning.
Where do you live in relation to Pointers Road?
Well, I live opposite Ferrers School. So I'm nearer to Leagrave High Street than the hospital.
How has the work affected you?
Awful. We have a tremendous amount of traffic coming along the road. Most of the time it's nose to tail, and it's just ridiculous because it's a narrow road and we're the main road to the hospital for the ambulances to come to and fro. And sometimes they have a great difficulty in avoiding these traffic jams to get through. So
I guess the problem is that this work does need to be done at some point, and whenever it's done, it's not going to be ideal, is it? There are going to be knock-on effects.
Well, of course not. No, I mean, I realise that, but one wonders why they didn't do half the road to start with and the other half later on. And possibly, had they kept the road up to scratch over the years, they wouldn't have such a problem now. So, that's my take on it.
Is it dangerous, do you think, Joan?
Well, I've seen one or two bumps outside my house. Dangerous, I suppose it could be dangerous, but the traffic is going so slow. But we have fire engines and police coming up and down the road as well. And yes, it could be dangerous, but it is inconvenient. I have difficulty getting my car out. The people have to stop so that I can get out, and I'm not the only one that moans about it. But also, I mean, I do know that Pointers Road and the people who live around and about there, they were given notification about this. But I didn't receive any letter to say, sorry about the inconvenience that you're going to suffer for 11 weeks. So I think that is something to do with, I think it's South Beds or Mid Beds that the road belongs to. And I think they should have included us.
What would you like to see done, Joan?
Well, I mean, I know people have got to get to work and use the road. I'd just like to see if they could divert some of the traffic in another area, rather than us getting all the pollution and the dirt from all the traffic. I can't have a window open in the front, bedroom window or anywhere, because of the pollution. Because while cars are standing still, they're still pumping out exhaust fumes. So, not very happy.
Joan, thank you very much. Joan Bodymead, well, Central Beds Council couldn't be bothered to give us anyone to speak to this morning, but they sent us a statement. I'm going to sub it down significantly. A, it's way too long, and B, I think it's a little bit rude. Your residents are upset and are unhappy, and all you do is send us a few words. Basically, whilst everyone appreciates the work needs to be done, we're aware of the disruption. We took care to schedule the majority of works for the summer holiday, and we are trying to keep the traffic flowing more smoothly. Marion is on the line. Morning, Marion.
Morning.
You're aware of these roadworks, are you?
Yes, I'm actually a resident of Pointers Road.
Right, and so you know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
Inconvenient?
I don't find it any inconvenience at all, to be honest. I travel to work to London every day. I've actually found the traffic an awful lot easier, and I know we're in the school holidays, but even before the school holidays started, I found the traffic flow brilliant, a vast improvement as to what it was before.
Do you use Lucy Road?
No, I don't.
That seems to be where a lot of the problems in regards to traffic
it is,
happening.
And I do see traffic in Lucy Road. However, there are other ways to get round that, and I think people probably haven't found it. I know when I go down, I can cut round other routes, so it's just a case of looking for other routes.
But I suppose if people don't know those routes, then they're just going to go for that, and that would cause problems for people like Joan, who lives in Lucy Road.
It would, but, that's what we have on Pointers Road. When Pointers Road are open, we have those problems. We can't get out of our driveways. I've regularly had to wait 10 minutes or so, for cars and lorries. I mean, we have a huge number of lorries that come down this road, and in fact, they're the ones who've contributed to the state that the road is in.
And these roadworks, they're necessary, in your opinion, are they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the last, 4 or 5 years, I think the council have spent, $500,000 doing temporary repairs, which have lasted, 4 or 5 months. The roads become dangerous with potholes and the bumps in it. You can see that it's sinking. It's in a terrible state, and something had to be done sooner rather than later. And I know there's been some query about the length of time that the roadworks are taking, but that was explained to us local residents. In that originally it was planned to take 22 weeks.
So they've got that down, Marion. We have to end it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Severe delays for the M25 anti-clockwise. It is still closed because of a lorry fire between Enfield at junction 25 and Potters Bar at junction 24, with traffic back to the M11 at junction 27. The trapped traffic is currently being released. There are queues through the Bell Common Tunnel. Delays on the diversion route as well. The official diversion following the hollow yellow square signs is the A10, the North Circular Road and the A1 to rejoin the M25 at junction 23. Clockwise is queuing. There was the closure on the clockwise side. Although that's been lifted, it's still very, very busy from the A1M toward Enfield. The A10 is looking slow through both Cheshunt and Enfield. Delays on the A414 in Hertford, possibly as people try and find an alternate route away from that official diversion. And the A421 in Bedford, there's a lane closed, a broken down vehicle between the A6 and Harrowden Road, the A600. Trains and tubes running pretty well this morning. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Why are we so fascinated with the great train robbery? What is it about it that means we're talking about it 50 years later? Not all of you agree. Michael is fed up with us celebrating thugs and criminals. We'll talk about it more after the news.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
8 o'clock, I'm Catherine Boyle. The headlines: family demands justice for Luton rioter, hospitals in line for cash injection, and train robbery police officers honoured.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The family of a Luton man convicted for his part in the Birmingham riot say his 18 years sentence is disproportionate. Police connected Wayne Collins-Taylor with a group of men who started a fire and opened fire on police. Although he took no active part in those crimes, the judge ruled his presence served to encourage those who did, and he was sentenced under the Joint Enterprise Doctrine, as Dr Andrew Green from the campaign group Innocent explains.
It applies where a group of people are acting together and one member of the group commits a crime and the others can all be held guilty of that same crime, even though they didn't actually do it.
Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. £500 million will be spent over the next 2 years in an effort to cut delays in A&E and improve services in other areas. Here's our health correspondent, Jane Draper.
The new funding will go to the hospitals facing the greatest problems with their local services. Some of the money will be spent on providing more social care around the clock, as well as increasing hours at pharmacies in an attempt to stop patients turning up at hospital. And the NHS 111 phone line dealing with urgent care problems, which has had a troubled launch, will get an extra £15 million to boost its capacity. The government said its announcement was designed to give patients confidence in the system, but the money has been criticised as a sticking plaster solution.
A Boreham Wood man has pleaded guilty to actual bodily harm and making threats to kill. 34-year-old Kyle Lawrence from Tempsford Avenue's already spent 7 months in custody. He was given a 2-year community order and ordered to attend a programme for alcohol and domestic abuse. Inspectors say UK border staff based in France are failing to take the fingerprints of thousands of illegal immigrants caught trying to enter Britain. The discovery was made during an inspection of officials who carry out immigration checks at key transport routes between Europe and the UK. 50 years after the great train robbery at Ledburn near Mentmore, the Buckinghamshire police officers involved have received special commendations. Among those honoured at last night's ceremony were Aylesbury detective Keith Milner and the police constable who discovered the gang's hideout, John Woolley. He thinks the public's fascination with the crime is finally fading.
Over the 50 years it's been celebrated, the various occasions that crop up, escapes, rearrests, that sort of thing. It's not going to happen much longer, though. I think that it will quietly come to rest after this, fittingly, the 50th anniversary.
In sport, the Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has promised strong and decisive action over, in his words, the total disrespect shown towards the club by Luis Suarez. Rodgers has made Suarez train alone, with Liverpool insisting they will never be forced into a sale. The weather, dry and fine, with a top temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, that's 75 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 3 minutes past 8. It's Thursday the 8th of August. This morning we're talking about the great train robbery 50 years on. Why are people so fascinated by it? The heist took place in Buckinghamshire, but should we be commemorating, celebrating, talking about these thugs that coshed a man over the head to steal a few quid? It's 2 years since riots swept through cities across England. At the time, the government said tough sentences would show there were consequences to disorder. Well, we'll be looking at the case of one Luton man who was sentenced to 18 years in prison. And are roadworks driving you mad? Well, we speak to one Bedfordshire lady who wants compensation because her road will be closed for over 2.5 months. But should she just lump it? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Send me a text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or give me a call 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Today marks the 50th anniversary of the Great Train Robbery in Buckinghamshire. The robbers got away with over £2.5 million in cash, the equivalent of 40 million quid today. Well, most of the money was never recovered, and the gang, including leader Bruce Reynolds and fugitive Ronnie Biggs, was sentenced to a total of 307 years in jail. Our train crime correspondent, Justin Dealey, has been to Brill in Buckinghamshire. Just explain why Brill is so significant, Justin.
Well, that's where the hideout was. It's
Right.
Around 28 miles from where the robbery took place in Ledburn. Brill is quite literally in the middle of nowhere, Iain, so you can understand why they picked that as their hideout. I'd never been there before. I was there this week, and there's still a few people who live in the village that were there 50 years ago, and they've got some very strong memories of what happened when the hideout was discovered. Here's just a few of those memories for you.
Well, I came home from work and there was the police in the village and we could see the police dogs and we just wondered what had happened. We didn't know at the time, and I just turned around and went home for tea and had my tea.
As you do.
As you do, when you come home from work. Have your dinner?
Well, I was delivering actually down in Oakley, and the police stopped me and said, "Did I?" And I said, "Well, I hadn't been there then, but I have actually delivered post there." When the chappie that I worked with in the post office, post chap, when he was on leave, I used to have to do his round, and that covered his round.
And what was it like in the village with reporters? Was it absolute chaos?
Yes, it was, yeah. There was police everywhere down there, yeah.
Well, Dennis, you've lived here since 1926. What's your memories of August 1963 in the village?
I worked at Cowley at the time at a car factory. Coming home, could see these planes flying around and just, that was unusual, really. So gets up to Brill, and of course, everything was going on at the Sun Hotel where reporters were there and the police and everything. Yeah, it's amazing, really.
I mean, when you meet new people and you talk about your life, is that one of the things that you talk about, the fact that you're from Brill and the Great Train Robbery, the hideout was very near to where you live?
Yeah, especially if I'm away from there, with strangers, because they're really interested, because a lot of people came here and down that lane, tried to, see the place. And, of course, a lot of talk in the pub. And, there was a lot of people in the village.
It does. I am trying to grapple this morning, Justin, with why people are interested in this and what the fascination is. We've had a mixed response from some of the listeners. I'm just trying to get the Facebook page up to read some. Michael says, "I'm fed up with the media celebrating thugs and criminals and saddened by the views of the public heard on 3CR this morning."
Well, in actual fact, we've got some more views to come. It's one of those things, though, that is so historic.
Yep.
And it is local. Those people there with their memories, as soon as you mention the Great Train Robbery, they're from Brill and Bucks, and that's where the hideout was. Leatherslade Farm, the world's media, they came to their village. That's something that people are not going to forget. And again, I mentioned this point to you. If people were alive above the age of 5 or 6 years old, maybe, the 8th of August 1963, every single person, I'm sure, will know exactly what they were doing. It's one of those moments where you say, that's what I was doing when that happened. It's such a history that we're talking about today. And, of course, it's local. It happens in our patch.
Justin Daly, thank you very much indeed. Joined now by Graham Satchwell, who's investigated numerous train robberies for the British Transport Police. Graham, why are people so fascinated by this robbery 50 years on?
Well, I think there are several reasons. I suppose, A, of course, it was a very large amount of money. You've already referred to that this morning. But secondly, of course, it was a very audacious crime. People don't stop trains stop trains and commit hold-ups. So this was a unique robbery in that sense. So very audacious, very large amount of money. Of course, it struck the public imagination. And I guess also because of the myth of the non-violent, likeable rogues taking on the state. But of course, the myth is very different to the reality. And, I tend towards your caller Michael's views on the issue of celebrating it. But I think for those reasons, very large amount of money, audacious, struck the public imagination, and of the myth of the thing.
Well, I spent a social evening, bizarrely, with Bruce... no, not Bruce Robinson. What's his name?
Bruce Reynolds.
Bruce Reynolds. Sorry, yes, Bruce Robinson's the film writer. Well, I spent a social evening with Bruce Reynolds, and he was a very interesting chap.
Yeah.
But what sort of people were the robbers?
Well, I guess... as you may know, I was responsible with my team for arresting one or two people who were involved in the Great Train Robbery and subsequent robberies. So let me tell you that having met them in different circumstances in the way that you have, they're typical, of course, people with a charm. They are charming people.
Yeah.
And the likeable rogue is an unusual character. But underneath that, what you have to realise is with these people, they're very determined and violent criminals.
Yeah.
So the charm is one thing, but the reality of the way they earn a living is quite different.
Why has it been dubbed great? Is it just the amount of money?
No, as I say, it's not just the amount of money, it's the fact that they actually had the audacity to stop a train and take on the state, in a way, and that's how it was perceived. I mean, one of your callers was talking about seeing aeroplanes in the sky and all this sort of stuff when their hideout was discovered. It was regarded as at the time as being a taking on the state in a very direct sense. And that's why the politicians, why the police service and politicians reacted in the way they did. This was something that couldn't be allowed to happen. So, the common man, like me and like most of us in this country, like the idea of another common man being able to achieve something against the state to make a statement. But the reality of the crime was actually a very miserable, dirty and dishonest. These people were not prepared to work in the way that you and I do to make a living. These people are not people who go out and actually try and get a mortgage. These people are thieves who try and steal from others and take advantage.
We've heard from one officer involved in the case that he thinks that it's possibly time to lay this to rest now. 50 years, let's have one last nod to it and then move on. What do you think?
Well, the myth... people are not interested actually in the reality. People are interested in the myth, the Robin Hood story. And the Robin Hood story, the original one, has been around for quite some time. So I don't think just because good sense would determine that we see this crime in its true light, good sense won't prevail here. The myth will prevail. And the Great Train Robbery the story of the Great Train Robbery, the myth, will be around for a very long time, I think.
Graham Satchwell, fascinating. Thank you very much. Investigating numerous train robberies for the British Transport Police. I don't get the train robbery. I could speak to Graham for ages. I mean, he's had some experiences in his time. And I spent a very bizarre social evening with Bruce Reynolds. It was very odd. But I don't get the fascination with the Great Train Robbery. Do you? I think there are far more interesting crimes. Bizarrely, I am fascinated by, for example, the Sharon Tate murders, the Manson family. Fascinated is quite a strong word, actually. I take that back. I'm interested. I have read books on it. And that, man alive, that was one of the most horrific things you can imagine. But the Great Train, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Vanessa in Bedford has texted in. My dad was a train driver. It was a big crime. I don't understand about Ronnie Biggs, though. Thought he was supposed to be dying. So he was let out of prison. He's still going. He's probably still laughing at the country now. We were paying for a thug and a thief who should have got life. I'm disgusted. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Should we have a quick look at the old frontingtons of the newspaper industry? Why not? The Daily Telegraph. Peterson fury at cheating claims. Oh, I really couldn't care less. Make do amend, says Tory minister. Do you know what? The front page of the Telegraph, really boring. I'm going to stop with that one. There we go. Let's move on to the Guardian. Let's see if the Guardian got anything. Bank put new lock on interest rates at, Edinburgh Festival. Front page of the Guardian's quite boring. I believe these got the Independent, the Bank, the Times. It's a picture of a man surfing. And the Bank. Let's try the Mail. The Mail. Here we go. Over 65 drinkers in health alert. This will be you. This is you. Over 65, you're drinking. Doctors call for alcohol safety levels to be halved for pensioners. This is what we should be leading on. If you're over 65, You like a drink? Well, you should halve your drinking income. Pensioners were warned last night to drink less alcohol or risk severely damaging their health. If you can't have a good booze up at the age of 65 and plus, what's the point in living? Huh? This is what Derby and Jones are based on. Old people going in there and getting sozzled. Doctors and public health experts said heavy drinking among the elderly was a hidden problem and safe limit guidelines for over 65 should be halved. Quick phone in. OK, if you're over 65, how much do you drink? And do you agree with this? You should halve it. 08459 455 555. If you're over 65, you should be drinking half of what you're drinking now. How much do you drink? And do you agree with that? 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 anti-clockwise. We have severe delays. The road is closed because of a lorry fire between Enfield and Potters Bar. It is slow back to the M11 in Essex. It's a tanker that caught fire earlier today. The trap traffic is being released at the moment. Everyone approaching the closure, your official diversion is the Hollow Yellow Square, which will take you down the A10, the North Circular and the A1 to rejoin at junction 23. Seems lots of people, though, are heading up toward Harlow and Hertford and using the A414 instead because that's looking very slow. It's also really busy clockwise as you go past the scene of the fire. It was, of course, closed clockwise earlier this morning. Delays through Cheshunt on the A10 coming down toward the M25 in the affected area. We had problems a little bit earlier this morning as well with a breakdown, I believe, in Bedford. It looks like that has gone. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much. Right, 8:16. It's Thursday, the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted for his part in the Birmingham riot says his 18-year sentence is disproportionate. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. In sport, the Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has made Mr Suarez train alone. Really? He's made him train alone as punishment for what the manager sees as total disrespect for the club. Coming up, 2 years since the riots, we'll hear about one man who's being sentenced to 18 years in prison.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It was styled as the crime of the century, the equivalent of £40 million.
Today is the 50th anniversary of one of the biggest crimes we've ever seen.
We drove to the next stop, which was Briddigone Bridge, and the assault took place.
To mark the day, I'll be broadcasting live from where it all happened, and we'll hear from the policeman who found the hideout.
It finally hit home. This was the train robbers' hideout.
Marking the 50th anniversary of the great train robbery this afternoon from 3 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Why? JVS! We almost didn't have Jonathan Vernon-Smith this morning, but with a little bit of sellotape, some witch's hair, some chewing gum, and the wind blowing in the right direction, I believe we can go to him now. Jonathan Vernon-Smith, are you there?
Some witch's hair?
Yes.
Disgusting.
It's what you need sometimes to make... This is what the BBC is fuelled by. We're not allowed to announce it publicly, but come on.
Really?
This whole thing is run by voodoo and black magic, JVS.
I'm held together by witch's hair.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it?
Are you a fan of the Great Train Robbery?
Am I a fan of it?
Well, we seem to be celebrating it here at BBC Three Counties Radio, and I don't quite... I think it needs a little nod of the head, a tilt of the hat. I don't quite understand why it's being celebrated.
Well, each to their own.
Thank you very much for helping me there.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Well, I just... I don't understand people's fascination with the Great Train Robbery. I don't get it.
Well, it was quite an interesting story, wasn't it? And it happened locally in Buckinghamshire.
Oh, look at you. Waving the company flag. I see. You've changed. How are you, my dear? You all right?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes, I'm struggling on in a cruel world. I nearly choked to death yesterday.
Oh, I read about this. You actually did, didn't you? What happened?
I seriously nearly choked to death. I ordered a steak baguette.
Yes.
And I bit into it, and they hadn't cut the steak up inside the baguette.
Well, it was just a lump of steak?
It was one great big long lump of steak. So as I bit into it, I've just realised this will be a really disgusting story for you because you're not a meat eater.
Stories about you choking, Jonathan, always get me excited.
So I bit into it, I felt that I couldn't bite off this steak, so I thought, well, I'm sure I'll find the end of it in a minute.
Oh, no.
In the end, I ended up with what must have been half a cow in my mouth, and a restaurant was all kind of looking at me. So I thought, well, if I just keep calm and just keep chewing it, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
The next thing I know, stuck down my blooming throat, didn't it?
Oh, gosh.
It was terrible. I nearly died.
Well,
I thought, what a way to go.
Hang on. Now, you say you nearly died. How close to actually dying did you come?
Well, I didn't go blue, but shall I tell you what I did, although it's quite disgusting?
Go on.
There might be people having their breakfast.
Oh, forget those guys. Go on, tell us.
I had to yank it out of my own throat.
So what, was it quite actually gone down your throat and you had to grab the tail of a cow and pull it out? Oh, that is disgusting.
I know. And then, do you know what? The waitress came over and said, everything all right with your food? I said, no, not actually. I nearly died on this baguette. And she said, what do you mean? The colour drained from her face. I said, well, they haven't cut the steak up. I nearly choked. So she said, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me go and talk to the chef. She came back. Do you know what she said?
Go on.
The chef says he's very sorry, but one of his ovens isn't working. What's that got to do with anything? Cut up steak with an oven, do you?
Oh, fantastic.
Anyway, I'm not dead.
Well, that's...
Why are you laughing? It's not funny. Have I been dead?
It will. I think that's a lesson to all. Don't go putting strange bits of meat in your mouth. It's a lesson to all of us. Thank you. Now, what
are you all right? What's going on?
I'm joking. Now, what's on your show today, Jonathan?
Well, coming up on the big phone-in today, would it be better for everyone if women made the choice between a career or being a mother? More than a quarter of mothers in the UK feel discriminated against at work. That's according to a new survey of nearly 2,000 women conducted by a major law firm. From 9 today, I want your views on this. Would it be better for everyone if women made the choice between a career or being a mother? Your calls on 08459 455 555. We'll discuss that this morning from 9.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The great train robbery. Ray's in Luton. Morning, Ray.
Good morning.
What on earth are you doing, you muppet?
I picked something else up instead of the phone.
What did you pick up?
My wife's blood sugar meter.
Hang on a minute. So you're sat there waiting for me to talk to you.
Exactly.
You reach for the phone and you pick up your wife's blood sugar meter.
All ready to take her sugar level.
Oh, blimey. All right. Well, we won't keep you too long then, because it was important that you check your wife's blood sugar level. Ray, the great train robbery, should we be celebrating it, commemorating it?
Well, I don't think so now. It's 50 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember it, though. I was a lorry driver then, and I used to do Leighton Buzzard, Lindley's, Bletchley, right down to Stanley Stratford. And I used to start off Leighton Buzzard, and as they arrested each one, they had to appear at Lindley Magistrates Court.
Yeah.
Because that's where the robbery took place. That's the county where the robbery took place. Then they were remanded to Aylesbury Crown Court. And I remember all the press there each day, you know. Actually, I think they'd rented a house or actually bought a house, and they all used to be upstairs.
Yes.
The court used to be right in the middle of the road because there was it's like a V junction. One went to Aylesbury, one went to Chennington, I think, the other one. And the court was actually right on the point in the middle. And I used to park up and watch everyone go in, you know. It wasn't cordoned off and that in them days.
And so you saw them all coming and going, did you?
I saw them all coming in to be charged and then going away again, you know.
Ray, listen, I could talk to you all morning about this, but we've got to stop there to try and squeeze some more people in. 08459 455 555. Thank you very much. Moving on, because this is a fascinating story. 2 years since riots swept through cities across England. At the time, the government said that tough sentences would show there were consequences for disorder. Well, Wayne Collins, 25, a barber from Luton, is now serving an 18-year sentence for his part in the Birmingham disorders. He was imprisoned under the controversial law of joint enterprise. His family and lawyers were shocked by the 18-year conviction and are now appealing against the length of his sentence. Debbie Taylor is Wayne's aunt. She explained to me the effect it's had on him being in prison for 2 years.
His whole character's changed. His perception of the UK justice system's changed. His understanding of what freedom is all about and how just being in the wrong place at the wrong time and also just meeting the wrong person at the wrong time could have such an impact on one's life.
Well, Nigel Leskin is the lawyer representing Wayne Collins Taylor in the High Court. Joins me now. Morning, Nigel. Morning. The former chair of the Criminal Bar Association, Paul Mendel QC, said sentences were too long and harsh. Do you agree?
Well, in this case, in relation to Wayne, is certainly the case, because I can't comment on others. It is a extremely serious thing to do, to fire, to use a firearm in a public, well, anywhere, but in a public place, and then in direction of police officers, is incredibly serious, and long sentence should be given. But the question is, in Wayne's case, although he was in a group of people where there were other people doing that, he himself was nowhere near the firearm, didn't use the firearm, had no control or possession over it, and was convicted on the basis that because he was in a group of people, his presence may have encouraged, or did encourage, or could have been thought of as encouraging the other people to use it. But there was no evidence of that. And that is the law of joint enterprise, that says, well, if you're part of something, you should be responsible for it.
What was Wayne actually convicted of?
Wayne was convicted of 3 different offences, and the first 2 we accept. Wayne shouldn't have been hanging around with these people. When he realised what was going on, he should have gone off, and he realises that now in hindsight. And he was convicted, therefore, of riot and arson of the public house. Again, the CCTV clearly shows that he's outside the public house, walking past, watching other people as they are attacking it, but he does nothing to attack it himself. The jury found, again, that there was a joint enterprise for that. He would dispute that, but the sentence for that was 6 years imprisonment.
Shouldn't he have
the sentence for the riot was 6 years imprisonment, but for the firearm was 18 years.
Shouldn't he have just walked away? If he was there with these people doing naughty things, he should have just gone, shouldn't he?
Of course he should have done. Of course he should have done. He knows that in hindsight now, but at the time he was in an area which he didn't know. He didn't know where his car was. He was with someone who knew where his car was, and he stayed with those people. And maybe the what was going on generally, he stayed there because of that. I don't know, and he knows now that he should have gone. But does that mean because you stayed with a group of people you should get 18 years imprisonment?
Oh no, not at all. But it seems to me, if I'm with a group of people I don't know particularly well, and they start setting fire to a pub and shooting coppers, I would be out of there. And I think most people would. I'm just bringing that because some people might question that.
What happens is, what happens is, he walks past the pub, people start attacking it in the group of people he's in.
I would have gone at that point.
Stops and watches for a few seconds, walks off. The group start moving off, run across the road. He thinks they're running away. He runs up there with them. They run back, and then as they're running off away from the area, a group of police officers arrive, and 4 or 5 of the group turn round and start aiming firearms towards or guns towards the police. Wayne is not part of those 4 or 5. Wayne is ahead of them, away from them. They're behind him. He's run off already, and therefore he is running away. He then stays with the group as they run away through the estates and off for another 20 minutes or so.
Well, there I would suggest is another mistake of his.
Sorry?
I would suggest that was perhaps another foolish thing to do, to run off with a group who'd just been shooting at police.
And Wayne accepts that. Wayne accepts that entirely. But does that make him guilty of the offence of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger?
Oh no,
does it make him
Nigel, you're not listening. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying he has made some very, very poor decisions, including running off with a group of lads who've just shot at coppers, I would say, is a very stupid thing to do.
Absolutely, and he accepts that entirely. He doesn't dispute that. He accepts that, and
good for him.
Hindsight, it's easy to say things in hindsight.
No, it's Nigel. It's easy. Common sense as well would suggest a load of guys have just shot at coppers. Do you know what? Should I run with them or should I run away with them? It seems obvious to run away with them.
You stay with them, and you let yourself in for the trouble you've let yourself in for, and you expect to get, and it's justified that you get convicted of an offence and you get sentenced for it, and he did. He got sentenced for the riot. Whether it should have been violent disorder or riot, it doesn't. It's probably splitting legal hairs. It may not make much difference, and he's got a sentence of 6 years imprisonment for that. But that isn't the same as the joint enterprise.
Oh no, I would agree with that, of course.
The firearm, and that's what this is about. That's what we are arguing, that Wayne should not be serving 18 years for possession of a firearm which he never possessed, which he had no control over, which other people in a group we didn't know we were using, on the basis that it could be said that he was encouraging them, and that's where the issue is with us.
Nigel, I appreciate your time. We'll be following this story closely. No doubt we'll speak again at some point. And that's Nigel Leskin, the lawyer representing Wayne Collins-Taylor in the High Court. Not for 1 second suggesting that the 18 years is an appropriate prison sentence. It would seem to be incredibly excessive. But it would appear that Mr. Taylor did make some rather naive, let's put it that way, shall we, decisions on the night in question. But we'll be certainly keeping an eye on that story as it progresses. 8:30, BBC Three Counties Radio, Travel with Adam Glynn.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Ian. Still big problems on the M25. Anti-clockwise, it remains closed. A lorry fire between Enfield and Potters Bar earlier this morning. Congestion back to the M11 in Essex. The traffic is being released right now. Anyone approaching the closure, you're being sent onto the official diversion, the Hollow Yellow Square, which takes you along the A10, down around the North Circular, then up the A1 to rejoin the M25 at junction 23. But it is looking very, very slow, particularly on the North Circular Road. Lots of people seem to be using their own diversions. Certainly Hertford is very busy at the moment. The A414 congested as you go past the London Road and Cross Lane, both ways around there. Clockwise M25, severe delays going into where the closures were through the roadworks section from junction 23 toward 25. The A10 looking very busy in Cheshunt down toward the M25. It's also slow then through Enfield. Right up the other end of the A1, it's looking very busy. The Black Cat roundabout coming down from Eton Soken. And the A5 in Dunstable is queuing as you go from Ashton Middle School toward the A505. Trains and tubes, though, are actually looking pretty good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning with the 8:30 headlines. I'm Catherine Boyle. The family of a Luton man convicted for his part in the Birmingham riot say his 18-year sentence is disproportionate. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. And 50 years after the great train robbery at Ledburn near Mentmore, Thames Valley Police are honouring the officers involved.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Watford, MK Dons and Stevenage will be in this lunchtime's Capital One Cup second round draw after wins on Tuesday night. Premier League clubs not involved in European competition enter the League Cup draw today. Watford manager Gianfranco Zola says it's a competition his squad should focus on.
They need to take this game seriously because these games will give them the opportunity to play and to show themselves in the future, so during the season. So it's important.
The England and Wales Cricket Board have asked Australian broadcaster Channel 9 for an apology after they accused batsmen of using silicone tape to try to trick the decision review system during the Ashes. Batsman Kevin Peterson yesterday called the suggestions hurtful lies. Meanwhile, there was an extraordinary T20 quarter-final last night as holders Hampshire beat Lancashire by 1 run to reach finals day. Michael Carberry scored a century as Hampshire posted 202 for 3. Lancashire then needed 4 off the final ball but could only manage 2 as they fell just short on 201 for 4. After winning Wimbledon last month, Andy Murray made a successful return to competitive tennis with a straight sets victory at the Montreal Masters. He beat Marcel Granollers 6-4, 7-6 and admitted to a few nerves before the match.
I was pretty nervous before the match, which was a good sign. I was happy that I was nervous because, a little bit after the US Open last year, I kind of felt almost no pressure in a way, and it wasn't that easy. I wasn't used to going into matches like that, so it was nice to have the nerves there, but it was tricky. It was so windy today, very tough conditions, and all the players have been struggling a bit, so I was just happy to get through it.
And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 9 o'clock.
Hang on, Kath.
Yeah.
I'm just having a row with. Have you got anything now? I'm having a row with Kelly Betts.
What's
Kelly,
she doing now?
Well, Kelly Betts. There's a podcast of the show. Okay.
Right, yep.
So it's the best bits of the show. And what I do is every day, I write down the bits that I want to be in the podcast, and they go in the pod. Give them to Kelly Betts. She puts them in the podcast. For today, I've written down. Oh, literally nothing. But hang on a second. So I need to explain. So Kelly has just during that short bulletin, what have you just said to me, Kelly Betts?
I've lost Tuesday's.
Say that again.
I've lost Tuesday's.
So you've
notes.
lost all of Tuesday's notes. Right, Kath, can you do something from the news bin? I'm just going to give Kelly a right roll rollicking.
This is quite a good one.
Okay, where you go. Kelly, you are back.
was hit by a part of a plane engine from an airliner flying from Heathrow. A report into the incident last December has found it started to break up shortly after takeoff. And then it says Lee Agnew has the details. Obviously, I haven't got that. The Boeing. I can read that bit. Are you all right?
Sorry, Catherine, carry on. Ignore us.
The Boeing 777 airliner belonging to Royal Brunei Airlines was on its way to Dubai and flying at about 15,000 feet.
It was one of a really strong show on Tuesday.
Plane, with more than 200 passengers on board, noticed a loud rumbling noise and a small amount of vibration. They turned the plane around and it landed safely. I'm glad. Experts...
I'm just so sorry. I think it's just one bit. That's
Experts from the Air Accidents Investigation Branch found that if one of its engines...
Can't we just put this in the podcast instead?
If one of its engine reversers had broken up and debris was found later in Hertfordshire. It was also the 15th time it had happened on a Boeing 777.
I think we're done here, Kath.
We could get something from today.
There's nothing from today.
What about this?
This is not going to go on the podcast.
We'll just make a really good show tomorrow.
Thanks, Catherine.
Go on, be nice to her.
No, get knotted.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We're talking about the great train robbery. I don't get it. Do you get it? Do you get it? Really? I don't know why we're so fascinated by it. The heist took place in Buckinghamshire, so there's lots of local connections. But is it glorifying a crime and turning criminals into heroes? Well, our reporter Justin Dealey has been asking questions this morning. Justin, where have you been?
Good morning, boss. I've got a question for you in just a second, by the way. But I had been to Brill in Bucks, of course, where the hideout was at Leatherslade Farm. Well, we've got some memories from there. But you've also been asking the question today, why are people still so fascinated 50 years on? Well, I've been putting that question to the people of Luton this morning, and here's what they had to say.
Good question. I don't see why myself, personally speaking. Because of the Royal Mail, probably an embarrassment that they couldn't live down.
Now, sir, you were around on the 8th of August 1963. You were at work at the time. Why do you think we are still so fascinated by the Great Train Robbery? Why do you think we are?
I think it was the amount of planning that went into it, and when we heard the details of it afterwards, and because it's local, I think that's why we still remember it. And I mean, I travel around a lot, and I did travel around in my work, and even when I was out around that way, you always remembered it when you were out around Leighton Buzzard and around the bridges where it took place. Whenever you went there, you always remembered it.
And it's a fascination that's probably never going to go away, is it? I mean, 50 years on, everyone's still talking about it. We'll still be talking about it in 10 years' time, 20 years' time.
Yeah, I don't think it will go away. I mean, as long as there's old people like me around, we'll remember it.
I think it was almost glamorised, and that's what frustrates me with the film that was out, etc. And it's still very much in the news and quite current, I would say.
And you're talking about Buster, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Well, what did you make of Phil Collins in that film, by the way?
Phil Collins, he was very good in the film, but should stick to music, I think.
Going loco down in Acapulco. If you stay too long, yes, you'll be going loco down in Acapulco. The magic in there is so strong. You'll be pulling out your hair, drowning in despair.
All that loving on the way to nowhere.
Yes, you'll be going loco. No, okay, well, maybe a little bit too.
I love that record. Great song.
It's a great
soundtrack.
It's a great song, great times, great guys. But the train robbery, I think, is pretty low.
Well, I think we're still going to be talking about this in years to come. I was talking to John Mole as well in Brill this week. Now, his cousin actually owns Leatherslade Farm. Sadly, his cousin wouldn't talk to us. People still, from right the way across the world, not just this country, but right the way across the world, they still go to that farm to have a nose. The building where the robbers were staying, that's been knocked down. It's been knocked down because people still go there to have a look. He thinks that we'll still be talking about this right up to the 100th anniversary, so another 50 years of talk about the Great Train Robbery.
You said you had something you wanted to say to me?
Yeah, you were talking about the podcast, weren't you, a moment ago?
Yes, I was.
And obviously what's happened with the tape from Tuesday.
Very, very successful podcast, very successful. The tapes from Tuesday have been lost.
Well, I'm just thinking here, because you're not going to be here for a couple of weeks, are you?
That's correct.
I'm standing in for you, so I'm looking forward to producing a fantastic podcast.
No.
No?
No.
Why?
No.
Why?
Well, for the very simple reason, it's the Iain Lee podcast. Your name is...
Justin Daly.
OK, right. So you cannot, therefore, have my podcast.
So, for the next 2 weeks, then, should we not have a breakfast show? Because it's called the Iain Lee Breakfast Show?
It's an idea, and I did suggest that to the bosses. We got very, very close to making that a reality, but unfortunately, contractually, the BBC Three Counties Radio has to output a breakfast show. So, yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
The thing I always say is, you never want someone better than you filling in for you.
That's a shame for you, then, isn't it?
Well, no, this is why Nick Coffer and Roberto should be worried, OK? Because Nick Coffer has got Tony Blackburn filling in for him, who despite, he's 87 years old. Despite that, he's still one of the greatest broadcasters of all time. Roberto has got James Whale filling in for him in a little while, who is another fantastic...
Where are you going here with this?
Well, what I'm saying is I've got you. I'm fine with that. I'm happy with that. That works.
You sure?
Works. I know that...
You're not paranoid at all?
No, that one or two of the
Won't
idiots...
be listening in on the internet when you're away?
One or two of the idiots on Facebook will be celebrating that you're filling in, but most of the people will be mourning
idiots with great taste.
So, no, I'm not going to let you have a podcast, Justin.
OK. I mean, I was just trying to carry on the brand for you, but if you want to be like that, that's fine.
I want to be like that, yeah.
All right, OK, no worries. Cheers, boss.
What kind of things have you got planned for the next couple of weeks?
Some amazing content that I can't tell you about just yet, because I don't want to get you worried.
Is it Chris Farlow? Is it half of Manfred Mann?
What's wrong with Chris Farlow?
Is it Eric Burden? Is it that BG, the one that's still alive? Is it Alvin Stardust?
Hang on a second. Do you want to take this back? Good morning, madam. You well?
Good morning, sir. I'm very well this morning, thank you.
I've got your breakfast here. Now, do you want this bringing back or not?
I'm really looking forward to you filling in, Justin. I'm a great fan of your Saturday show. And is it Chris Farlow you've got this weekend?
Chris Farlow on Friday. I'm standing in for Nick Coffer. And on Saturday, we've got Fergal Sharkey picking his favourite musical memories. Isn't that amazing?
I'll certainly be listening to those, Justin. And thanks ever so much for saying you'd step in.
Pleasure, Ian. Thank you very much.
I think it's nuts.
Ha! 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. If you want to give us a call, Justin Daly will be filling in for me next week. And if you get confused over who it is filling in for me, you just very simply have to say, "Who is it filling in?" He will reply with this answer:
Justin Daly.
There we go, you see, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. 08459 455 555 on the subject of the Great Train Robbery. To celebrate something so terrible is wrong, says Lisa. The Mrs. Biggs drama was glammed up, but was interesting as a history lesson. And you've been texting as well, 81333. Tony in says, if the media drop the word great from the Great Train Robbery, then it'll become just another train robbery. It was never great. It was just a theft. I missed off a few of the newspapers. We got sucked into the Daily Mail. Over 65 drinkers in health alert. Pensioners were warned last night to drink less alcohol or risk severely damaging their health. You don't see drunk old men very often. When I was growing up, my granddad was always drunk. He wasn't always drunk, don't get the wrong idea. But you quite often see granddads would be drunk. You don't see drunk granddads very often, do you? I missed that. The Express, new heat wave to hit Britain. Hottest spell of the year is on the way, say experts. Britain is about to bake in another scorching summer blast, with every chance that the hottest day of the year is yet to come. And there's a picture of the Queen in a hat. The Sun, Kelly, Dan's sex with six. Raging Kelly Brook hit the roof after learning boyfriend Danny Cipriani was cheating with 6 other women. More interesting to me is Monty's legless before Weegate. So what's happened here? Page 16. This is a a cricket player, Monty Panesar, I believe, who got drunk, had a little bit of an argy-bargy with... I can't see the story in here. I have to log online, do I? There it is, page 9. He got a little bit drunk, had a little bit of a rumble with some bouncers in a nightclub, and then did a wee-wee on their heads. Now, is this really the kind of sports star we should be celebrating? What a horrible, horrible man. What a horrible gentleman. Saying, I'm going to get drunk, I'll have a fight with some bouncers, and then I'm going to do a wee-wee. I'm going to do a wee-wee with them. Monty Panesar grapples with a bouncer moments after urinating on two of them after he was kicked out of their nightclub. Video footage shows 6 doormen chase the England cricket star into a Brighton pizza parlour. He's grabbed and he shouts, "Please, please, let me go." What a disgusting, horrible person. People are phoning in to see if Kelly Betts is okay. Don't speak to her. She has done a massive muff-up. She has muffed up my podcast by losing Tuesday's audio. Don't phone in to see if she's all right. Phone in to see if I'm all right. I'm the one that's been slighted by this. I'm the one that has put a lot of work into jotting down 2 clips, and she has had the audacity to lose that bit of paper. Don't phone in to see if she's fine. Phone in to see if I'm all right.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
M25 anti-clockwise still shut for recovery work after the lorry fire earlier this morning. It is closed between junctions 25 and 24 with congestion back into Essex to the M11. It was a fuel tanker that caught fire. The trapped traffic's currently being released. There are delays on the diversion route, which is following the hollow yellow square symbol on the road signs along the A10, North Circular Road and the A1. Clockwise M25, severe delays heading into the roadworks as well, despite the fact that all lanes have reopened on the clockwise side after it was closed past the scene of the fire. The A10 looking very busy in Cheshunt coming down toward the M25, queues then through Enfield as well. The A121 looking busy at Waltham Cross. The A414 very slow through Hertford. It looks like a lot of people are trying to avoid getting stuck in the queues down toward the closure, going up the M11 and then through Harlow and Hertford on the A414 instead. In fact, it's starting to get very busy through London, Coney and past St Albans toward the M1 as well. If you're using the A1 this morning, Roxton, we've got queues at the Black Cat roundabout coming southbound from Eton Soken and some delays in Dunstable on the A5. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 8:46. It is Thursday, the 8th of August. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The family of a Luton man convicted for his part in the Birmingham riots says his 18-year sentence is disproportionate. Doctors have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of extra money to help relieve pressure on struggling accident and emergency departments this winter, but say it's only a short-term solution. In sport, the Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has made Luis Suarez train alone as punishment for what the manager sees as total disrespect for the club. Coming up, roadworks. Aren't they fun? No, they're not, especially not if you live in Dunstable. But first, let's get the weather. Here's Elizabeth Rizzini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Drop into single figures overnight. Lots of sunshine around across the three counties though this morning. Bit of high cloud coming and going at times, and there will be more cloud bubbling up into the afternoon. Could spoil the sunshine for some of us, but do find a sunny spot and it will feel nice and pleasant with temperatures up to 22 or 23 degrees Celsius, possibly just scraping 24, which would be 70 in Fahrenheit. Just light winds, so nice and pleasant in the sunshine. We might just catch 1 or 2 light showers springing up here and there across the three counties as we head through the course of the afternoon, but most places are going to stay dry. Now, overnight tonight, the cloud will thicken and eventually we'll see some outbreaks of rain spreading from the west, so it could be a bit of a damp start to the day tomorrow. A few showers around through the morning, a little bit of sunshine into the afternoon, and lots of dry weather around over the next few days. Temperatures into the low 20s. Saturday's not looking too bad actually for your weekend fun, dry and fine. By Sunday though, we're going to see more outbreaks of rain. That's the forecast.
Justin Daly. Justin Daly.
Tony Blackburn on BBC Three Counties Radio.
I'll be here all this week between 12 and 3 sitting in for Nick Coffer. There'll be the usual mix of local guests, advice and, of course, great music.
Tony Blackburn.
I want you to enjoy the music and have fun. That's what we're going to do between 12 and 3.
Tony Blackburn on BBC Three Counties Radio.
In fact, it'll be pop-a-doodle-tastic.
Justin Dealey.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Can we just say, if you please call in the show, I want you to call in the show. I love your opinions and getting your thoughts on what we're talking about. Only call in if you want to come and talk to me on air. Don't call in because you want to see if Kelly Betts is okay or, offer her support or be rude about me. You can be rude about me if you want to come on the air and be rude about me, but just don't phone up to say rude things about me behind my back. That's cowardly. A little bit cowardly. I don't like cowards. Don't like cowards. I don't like bullies. So we'll stop that, if that's all right. Yeah? Thanks very much. Local businesses say that roadworks in Dunstable have badly affected their business. The Pointers Road repair works have closed the road for 11 weeks, meaning businesses and houses can't be accessed at all easily. Well, with me now is Viv Innes, who runs the Margaret Innes Hair and Beauty Boutique on Pointers Road. Viv, how has your business been affected?
Yeah, good morning, Ian. Yeah, it's had a really huge impact on the business. Prior to the works commencing, we knew things were going to get difficult. But we were, pretty upset at the onset to be forewarned not to expect any compensation. And bearing in mind these roadworks are like 11 weeks, I obviously stated that as a fact that, we were obviously really concerned. They said that basically these roadworks are deemed as essential and to everyone's safety, and that was including us. So basically we had to lump it, really. Yeah.
Well, the road is apparently sinking, so these roadworks need to be done. But what would you like to have seen done differently?
What in respect of how they've looked after us? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, we were promised and reassured that the business wouldn't be affected too much, but as everyone will see, that the access is practically impossible. I mean, by week one, we were about 30% down, and we obviously didn't make any complaints at the time. But by week two, things became a lot more inaccessible, and the promise of support from the road traffic division, the relations become a bit strained by them because obviously, and up till now, they're not really having any interest in us at all now. So
how bad is business at the moment, Viv?
Well, we're about 60% down.
Wow.
We've been established for 35 years. It's never been like this. Obviously, we're really worried as the news agent is down the road. He said he's 100% down. So, we've got another 7 weeks to go. And, we're really kind of really worried. We've had customers that have, we've had promised access for the customers. They've said, they don't have any trouble coming down. But, there's been a good few occasions where they've not been allowed to get down. And obviously these people have phoned complaining to the council. So, yeah.
Are you going to survive the 7 weeks, do you think? Will the business survive?
Do you know what? I don't know. It's potentially the business could be destroyed.
And what have the council said when you've put this to them?
Well, they haven't said a lot to us at all. They've said that we can't have any compensation. And, these, as I said at the onset, that these roadworks are essential to everyone's safety, including ours.
Mm.
So,
And is the road completely blocked? Can people get to your shop?
Not well. As I said, on week one, access was possible to, and they have these road marshals institute to bring people down. But yesterday and the day before, even our drive is, because they've built trenches at the sides of the road, so it's not accessible, our drive at all. And I would have thought that as a business, they would have really sort of tried to, as they said at the onset, they would, try and cause as least disruption as possible. They would have seen to our driveway first, but ours seems to be the worst one, really. So,
well, Viv, listen, I wish you the very best of luck. I hope things improve somehow, and maybe we'll speak to you in a couple of weeks to see how things are going, if that's okay.
Yeah, I would just like to, I wondered if we could just say, I'd like to just tell our customers, old and new, that we are open for business as usual.
Yeah.
Tuesday to Saturday. We have 35 years of experience, So come and see us, and it'd be great to have the local support of the community during this lengthy, road works,
Well, Viv, listen, very best of luck. We will speak to you soon. Viv Innes runs Margaret Innes Hair and Beauty Boutique on Pointers Road. It's open for business, guys, so go and support the local business. We've been talking about the Great Train Robbery. I don't get it. I don't get the fascination with it. Dave's in Luton. Morning, Dave.
I'm not talking about the grain train robbery.
Sorry?
I'm not talking about the grain train.
The grain trait robbery.
Oh, I'm talking about Miss Kelly.
What?
Miss Kelly.
Kelly Betts.
Oh, you were so rude to her today.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, because she said sorry to you 3 times.
That's irrelevant because she.
Hold on, but the man with the rabbis, because he wouldn't say sorry. She said sorry.
Yes. But she,
so
I would suggest.
David.
David.
Well, you got 4 weeks holiday.
David, I would suggest that what Kelly has done is worse than what they're doing to the trains in Milton Keynes. They're just halving the amount of carriages on their trains. Kelly has lost some clips for my potentially award-winning podcast.
Shame. It was her birthday this week.
So what?
Well, you've got to give her respect.
What? She's working for the BBC, Dave. It's not, I know what, I'm going to dress up as a fairy and bring in donuts for everyone because it's my birthday. She is working for the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Well, I know, but the thing is, she said sorry 3 times.
Sorry's not good enough.
Well, what do you want from her?
I want her to go back through the archives and trawl through the clips and find exactly what she needs. Yes, it might take her 6-7 hours. That's tough.
Well, if Kelly wants a PR, I'll come and help her.
What does that even mean?
Well, I'll come and give her support.
You're banned for 2 weeks.
Well, you're not there. Oh, Justin. Good old boy Justin coming back. Bye.
Justin Dealey.
Yeah. Why is it ending on a sour note? This is all Kelly Betts' fault. I have done nothing wrong here. She messed up. Someone has just rung in and said, I should get a life. Oh, look at all these keyboard and telephone warriors. It's all very well phoning up and saying it to the staff, then running away, saying it to people low down the production team chain. Come on the air and say it. Come and say it to my face. Yet none of you will. Listen, this is the way this works, OK? The podcast could potentially win me awards. The stuff from Tuesday's show that has been lost is gold, liquid gold. And I think I'm well within my rights to get upset. Peter, are you there? Peter?
Hello, Ian.
Hello, Peter. The Great Train Robbery.
The Great Train Robbery, very quickly, because time is tight.
Yes.
A very good mate of mine, when I was an estate manager in Kent, had the contract with the Ministry of Transport to landscape Stanbridge, MOT, heavy goods vehicle, Weybridge, etc., etc. And going backwards and forwards to Kent every day for a week was a bit of a pain because there was no super motorways, etc., etc. So with just a few hours of work to do and the daylight vanishing, he said to the chaps, if I get you a fish and chip supper and we have a few beers, we'll sleep in the van, finish off tomorrow, get back to Kent sometime lunchtime, we have the rest of the day off. Yes, we'll go for that.
Beautiful.
However, 1 o'clock in the morning, he's surrounded by all the armed police in the world while sleeping in the van. Out they get, hands up against the van, legs apart. This is the date of 8th of August, of course.
Oh.
And
so they were having a kip in the van and the police thought that they were the Great Train Robbers?
Exactly, yeah.
How terrifying.
And he told me he's never been so afraid in his life having a gun shut up his nose.
Listen, Peter, thank you. Hands up who's had a gun pointed at them that could potentially have been shot. Me. Hands up who's had a shotgun pointed at them that could potentially be shot. Me. Hands up who's had a shotgun pointed at them in a dark alleyway in Pakistan, pointed at you by a member of the notoriously corrupt military. Me! Anybody who's had a gun pointed at them. Man, it is scary. I'm recounting my life experiences, of which I have many. The way I got out of having the gun pointed at me, the only Urdu or Hindi I knew were swear words. Luckily, by strange coincidence, I was on the front page of a Pakistani newspaper. I know, I was photographed building a model shovel to kill Christopher Lee with. The story gets too involved for me to continue here. Maybe at a later date I'll bore you with it. But we're coming up to 8:58. Let's get the travel news now with Adam.
Justin Dealey.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Ian. M25 anti-clockwise. Still severe delays. It's queuing. 2 lanes remain closed, but they've managed to get one open because of the lorry fire earlier this morning between Enfield and Potters Bar. So it was a fuel tanker that caught fire in the roadworks section. A full closure in place. Lane 3 opened about a couple of minutes ago, so there are still long delays back to the M11. Clockwise looking really slow from junction 22 at London, Coney round to 25 at Enfield as well. Delays in Cheshunt coming down toward the M25 through the A10. The A10 busy in Enfield too. The A121 in Waltham Cross looking very slow. The A414, lots of people have been using that as an alternate diversion route because the official diversion from the former closure of the M25 was down into London round the North Circular, then back up the A10. But it's looking really, really slow on the A414 in Hertford as people have been heading up the M11 and going through Harlow, Hertford and St Albans. We've also got problems on the trains. 20-minute delays, London Midland and Virgin, Euston to Rugby, a signalling problem. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. That's it, that's your lot. Don't forget, do go and download the podcast from iTunes or from the BBC website. Back tomorrow at 6. JVS is up next. From me, ta-ta.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon Smith. On today's Big Phone-In, I'm asking, would it be